Chapter 137. Sure, you deserve the best. It was a short sentence, but it was like a spring breeze. Gu Xingze looked at her with a gentle smile. Yin Sure was flattered. Gu Xingze, why are you so good to me? I don't know. Gu Xingze smiled. You're a girl who makes my heart ache. Thank you. Yin Sure said sincerely. Tonight was Huanyu Entertainment's 10th anniversary party. Celebrities from film, television and singing, as well as many well-known directors and investors, as well as international mainstream media reporters, were all present to witness this grand event. Huanyu Entertainment's predecessor was Universal Records, the country's leading gold medal record company. It had made countless popular idol singers famous, and for a time, it looked down on the domestic record industry. Later, when the record industry was in a slump, Universal Records quickly went downhill. After it was acquired by Dishing Financial Group, it was officially renamed Huanyu International Entertainment Agency. It gathered A-list big shots and 4 ace managers, continuing Universal Records' glory years ago. Unknowingly, Huanyu Entertainment had been established for 10 years. Tonight's party would be unprecedented. It was no wonder that those little models and has-been artists were racking their brains to walk the red carpet at this party. If they could seize this opportunity, they would be able to make a beautiful comeback. One must know that many well-known directors and producers were present tonight. What was more precious was that even Dishing Financial Group's CEO would be present. Dishing's CEO. He was the crown prince of the Mu family, the capital's richest family, and the future heir of the Mu Group. Mu Yaja had always been mysterious. The news about him was all groundless. The public knew very little about this noble and mysterious crown prince, and he rarely appeared in public. When the socialites and aristocratic daughters in the circle learned about this, they all dressed up meticulously in order to leave a deep impression in front of this honorable CEO and win some attention. So what if he had a fiancé? Wealthy families like the Mu family were divided into the first, second, and third wives. Mu Yaja had 3 wives back then. Mu Yaja's father was the first wife's son, and he was doted on by Grandpa Mu. Therefore, there are also a lot of high-class nobles in this banquet, in order to be able to see the Mu family's young master's elegant demeanor. Even if they can't attract Mu Yaja's attention, if they can climb up the ranks of the Mu family's side branch, it can be considered as climbing up the social ladder. Therefore, as soon as the reporters arrived, they were stunned by the dazzling jewels in the hall. It was too extravagant. It was simply corrupt. In the entire capital, only the Mu family has such influence. In order to participate in this event, Yun Na deliberately gritted her teeth and spent a fortune to rent a luxurious Bentley for 2,000 yuan. The Bentley drove into the venue and stopped at the entrance. Yun Na immediately tidied up her outfit, especially the beautiful jewelry around her neck. She adjusted it to the best angle to ensure that the media could capture it from the first angle. For the sake of gaining exposure, Yun Na could be said to have taken great pains and strived for perfection in everything. And it was all for the sake of attending the grand event in a grand manner. Humph, Yin Sure, you don't deserve to attend this kind of cocktail party. You should just stay at home with that bastard child of some unknown man, and watch her on the TV. Yun Na cursed viciously in her heart. The chauffeur opened the car door, and Yun Na immediately revealed a flawless smile. She proudly raised her chin, straightened her back, and gently tucked her hair behind her shoulders before gracefully stepping onto the red carpet. Her appearance attracted the attention of many female celebrities. Chapter 138. Van Cleef & Arpels was the most expensive jewelry brand. Among them, the Secret Garden series was the most favored by celebrities. The Vicomte from the Secret Garden series was one of a kind in the world. The moment Yun Na walked on the red carpet, she immediately attracted everyone's attention. When the media saw her, they all raised their cameras and took pictures of her. The other female celebrities couldn't help but talk among themselves. Their eyes were fixed on her. Who was this newcomer? The gown she's wearing is Armani's new spring collection. Oh my God, look at the necklace on her neck. It's from the Secret Garden series. I heard that the gems on it are worth tens of millions. It can't be a fake, right? This Vicomte is out of print. It's only sold in limited quantities worldwide. Ordinary people can't buy it. It must be a fake. This Vicomte can't be bought even if you have the money. I don't know where this unknown newcomer came from. She's even wearing a fake jewelry. Humph. I heard that there was a sugar daddy who wanted to buy this necklace at a sky-high price. The crowd was talking about it. Yun-na couldn't hear what the socialites were talking about. She only felt that she was the center of attention. Many pairs of envious and jealous eyes fell on her. She was very pleased with herself. Yun-na raised her head proudly and puffed out her ample chest. She walked to the entrance but was politely stopped by the concierge at the door. Hello, madam. Please show me your invitation card. Invitation card? Did this cocktail party need an invitation card? Yun-na was a little flustered for a moment, but she quickly calmed down and raised her chin proudly. She sneered in disdain, and was so angry that she laughed. What do you mean? You're asking me for an invitation card? Are you suspecting that I came uninvited? I'm sorry, madam. You misunderstood. Entering with an invitation card is one of the procedures of the cocktail party. The concierge had a decent smile on his face, but there was a trace of doubt in his eyes. The entrance checkpoint of the cocktail party was set up very carefully, in order to prevent small models and unknown stars from sneaking into the venue. Some celebrities didn't receive an invitation but still wanted to sneak in. Huan Yu's annual cocktail party had sent out a total of 500 invitations, 100 VIP cards, and 100 seats for the media in the venue. Every guest had to show their identity when they entered the venue. Otherwise, they would be blocked outside the door. No one was an exception. Yun-na looked a little embarrassed and said unhappily, I'm with Director He. Do I need an invitation? Then may I ask which director's female companion you are? Director He Lingxiang. Poochie. Suddenly, a disdainful sneer came from beside him. Yun-na furrowed her brows in embarrassment and turned her head, only to see that the person laughing at her was actually one of the four most popular young actresses, Yang-mi tonight. She was wearing an evening gown with golden tassels. It was so long that it reached the ground, making her look slender and elegant. It was simple yet luxurious, especially the diamond necklace around her neck. Coupled with her exquisite makeup, she looked stunning. As someone who stood at the peak of public opinion, Yang Chong naturally knew how to create momentum for himself. As soon as he appeared, he instantly killed countless furlants. However, halfway through the red carpet, the limelight was stolen by this newcomer, who came out of nowhere. Yang-mi was naturally unhappy. Chapter 139. Where did this newbie come from? How could she not know the rules? An unknown newbie dressed so luxuriously, and dared to steal the limelight from them. She had no sense of propriety at all. This wasn't her home ground. Was she doing this on purpose? Yang-mi didn't have a good impression of her. Yun-na was the typical big-breasted but brainless type. She had stolen the limelight the moment she appeared and offended many actresses. Which director did you come with? Yang Chong slowly walked in front of her and asked arrogantly. Yun-na looked at her and was a little defeated by her aura. This Yang Chong had such a strong aura. His arrogant eyes were so oppressive that even her confidence was suppressed. I'm with Director He. I'm his female companion. Yang-mi was deliberately making things difficult for her. Who asked her to steal her limelight? She didn't know how to restrain herself. Naturally, she wouldn't let her off easily. There are so many directors with the surname He. Not everyone has the right to enter such an event. Tell me your name, and see if I know you. Yun-na bit her lip. Why did Yang-mi have to make things difficult for her? What did it have to do with her whose companion she was? However, she knew that Yang-mi was someone with a strong background. In the entertainment industry, every actress who was doing well had a strong backer. She couldn't afford to offend them. Otherwise, as a newbie, she wouldn't dare to offend someone and be blacklisted before she even debuted. Thus she said respectfully, It's He Lingxiang, Director He. You can't even speak coherently. You're just a nobody who hasn't seen the world. You're delusional to think that you can enter such an event. You're not worthy. Sister Me. She just said that she's He Lingxiang's companion. That Director He. Ihi. A well-dressed actress beside Yang-mi whispered to her. This actress was called Tang Yu. She had just debuted not long ago, and played a supporting role in a period drama starring Yang-mi. She had gained some popularity with the audience and accepted many roles. Recently, she had been very close to Yang-mi. She seemed to be whispering, but it seemed like she was deliberately saying it to someone. Every word was extremely humiliating. Newbies nowadays are so unscrupulous in order to climb up the ranks? What kind of person is he Lingxiang? She has the ability to climb into Director He's bed. What a taste! Yang Chong sneered and said, "Isn't that so? Some newbies don't know the immensity of heaven and earth. They think that they can climb up the ranks just by hugging a big thigh. They don't even know how much they are worth. Don't think that the entertainment industry is a place where anyone can step into." That's right. Yun Na was filled with grievances as Yang Jian, and Tang Yu made things difficult for her at every turn, yet she didn't dare voice her anger. She could only pinch the corner of her dress and purse her lips as tears welled up in her eyes. Tang Yu continued to add fuel to the fire. Look at her. She's pretending to be wronged. Big sis me, she seems to be quite scheming. Look at her outfit. She's clearly trying to steal your limelight. She's not worthy. Yang Chong sneered. I think her outfit is fake. Yun Na immediately defended herself. No? Then where did the necklace on your neck come from? Yang Chong obviously didn't believe him. This necklace is worth tens of millions. Can you afford it? How is that possible? It must be fake. She's obviously a commoner. She's so unsophisticated. Some of the invited actresses at the side also surrounded them. Their words of ridicule were extremely vicious. Chapter 140. Thus, Yun Na was at a loss as she was surrounded by them. She braced herself and listened to their endless insults as the grievances in her heart turned upside down. Just you wait. Just you wait. She would remember every debt she owed him today. When she made it big, she would pay them back 100 times, 1,000 times over. Many of the reporters at the side sympathized with her. This newcomer had offended many seniors before even entering the venue. She was really pitiful. However, this was the industry. As a newcomer, you had to know how to keep a low profile. Otherwise, it would be easy to offend people. Therefore, no one stepped forward to help her. Young Mi had a high status in the industry. Now that her career was at its peak, her 8 years of acting had accumulated a lot of popularity with the audience. No one dared to offend her. What's going on? Why are you all blocking the entrance? A man's low and cool voice came from not far away. Everyone turned around in surprise and saw Li Jiuxian standing behind them. He was wearing a custom-made suit today. It was well-tailored and extraordinarily elegant. His handsome face attracted countless screams when he entered the venue. Li Jiuxian was a popular young actor newly signed by Huanyu Entertainment. He was elegant and handsome. Blessed with a unique appearance, he had already starred in 2 commercial blockbusters and 5 idol dramas in just 2 years after his debut. He was very productive and had a lot of resources in his hands. He was a popular idol promoted by Huanyu Entertainment. Yun Na looked at him, but his gaze fell on her. He saw that she was in a sorry state and felt wronged. As if she was clutching at a life-saving straw, Yun Na pursed her lips and looked at him pitifully. Her pair of beautiful red eyes made people fall in love with her. Li Jiuxian couldn't help but feel pity for her. He looked at Yang Mi and said, "Sister Mi, why aren't you entering the venue?" Li Jiuxian and Yang Mi were brothers and sisters in the same company and had a good relationship. Previously, the two of them starred in a period drama together. The ratings were very good and there was even a rumor that the two of them fell in love with each other. The rumor had occupied the headlines for several months. Yang Mi said, "It's all because of this little B***tch blocking the way. She's just a newcomer, yet she's so ambitious and wants to steal the limelight." Li Jiuxian smiled. "Sister Mi is so beautiful. Tonight, you'll definitely be the center of attention." When Yang Chong heard his praise, she naturally enjoyed it. Her face couldn't help but blush as she pouted. "Jiuxian, you're also very handsome today. Tomorrow's headline will definitely be yours." "Thank you for your guidance, Sister Mi." However, at this juncture, the media was already waiting at the reception. "Big sis Mi, don't be so calculative with a newcomer. Otherwise, if word gets out, the media will exaggerate and say that you're abusing your power to bully others. That won't be worth it," Li Jiuxian advised. "Yes, you're right." Obviously, Yang Chong had taken his words to heart. She stepped forward and naturally held his arm. Li Jiuxian smiled elegantly and entered the venue with her. Yin Na stared blankly at Li Jiuxian's departing figure, and her heartbeat couldn't help but quicken and thump. Tang Yu didn't continue pestering Yin Na when he saw this. He grunted coldly and warned her before entering the venue as well. Not long after, He Lingxiang arrived. Chapter 141. Reading on her phone. Reading on her phone. Bai Ran nodded and turned on her phone. She could already surf the internet normally. Gu Qingze booked a hotel pickup service. When they arrived at the hotel, it was already 4 in the morning. Bai Ran had a feeling that they would probably spend the next day in the hotel. She felt that it would be a waste. Gu Qingze seemed to have seen through her thoughts and comforted her. It's okay. If you're really tired tomorrow, you can rest in the hotel. Anyway, tomorrow's itinerary hasn't been decided yet. Bai Ran was a little worried. Isn't it too extravagant? For some reason, he felt a little reluctant to waste his time in a hotel when he was out on a trip. Gu Qingze laughed. We're getting married on a trip. It's different from other trips. We don't have to be so tired. Rest well and you can recharge your energy. I think you won't even be able to get out of bed tomorrow. When Bai Ran heard this, she smiled and said, Actually, I slept for a while on the plane. Even if I'm tired, I should be able to wake up by noon tomorrow. Oh, you have so much energy? Gu Qingze's eyes were playful as he said meaningfully, Then I'll have to learn from you. Learn from you? Bai Ran didn't understand for a moment. However, when they arrived at the hotel, the two of them took a shower and lay on the bed. Bai Ran finally understood what Gu Qingze meant when he said, learn from you, on the way to the hotel. She originally thought that after such a long flight, he would be exhausted and would probably fall asleep after taking a shower at the hotel. She didn't expect that when they got on the bed, Gu Qingze would flip over and press her under him and start to demand. After being married for so long, he rarely touched her. Even if he did touch her, he wouldn't be too rough. Especially the first and second time. He was considerate of her first time and her body couldn't withstand the torment. Therefore, he was always careful and extremely gentle. Therefore, to Bai Ran, it wasn't as embarrassing as the rumors said. She felt like she was run over by a truck. She felt sore all over. She didn't feel anything at all. By the 4th and 5th time, she had already gotten used to it. It was only during this honeymoon that a certain man, who had been conserving his energy, finally showed his true strength in bed. It wasn't until the next day that Gu Qingze saw that she was exhausted. Even though he couldn't bear to part with her, he knew that he had to give up. At that time, she felt that her body was as soft as cotton, and she didn't even have the strength to get off the bed. No wonder. It was only then that Bai Ran realized that Gu Qingze was right when he said that she might not be able to get out of bed tomorrow. It turned out that this man already had some kind of plan from the moment he boarded the plane. Gu Qingze carried her. After cleaning her up, he carried her to bed to rest. When he held her in his arms, he couldn't help but feel a little restless. Only then did she beg for mercy. She kissed and pecked him, saying all sorts of nice things. Only then did he hug her in satisfaction and fall asleep. That night, she was really tired. The energy she had replenished on the plane had been completely squeezed out. Therefore, she slept especially soundly. She didn't even dream of anything and slept until noon the next day. At noon she still couldn't bear to wake up. Gu Qingze was the first to wake up. He waited for her to wake up, but she didn't wake up, so he kissed her awake. Watch first episode Zue new chapter section. Please go to client, mobile address. Watch first episode Zue new chapter section. Please go to client, mobile address. Chapter 142. Reading on the phone. Reading on the phone. At noon, she still couldn't bear to wake up. Gu Qingze was the first to wake up, but she didn't wake up no matter how long he waited, so he kissed her awake. Bai Ran had been tormented by him until very late at night, and a woman's stamina was not as good as a man's. Although she had rested enough and didn't feel sleepy, after an entire night of passion, she opened her eyes but didn't have the strength to get out of bed. Gu Qingze kissed her awake, so he naturally wouldn't waste the rare honeymoon opportunity. Although they were getting married on a trip, Bai Ran and Gu Qingze had agreed to include a honeymoon in the trip. Especially, it was when he saw Bai Ran wake up. Her sleepy eyes were surrounded by smoke. Although she had just woken up and was in a daze, Her skin was surprisingly good and had the texture of egg white. The more Gu Qingze looked at her, the more he held her face and kissed her more and more passionately. The more he kissed her, the more he wanted to have her. Under Bai Ran's half-hearted resistance, he had her twice. It was as if he wanted to vent all the passion and vitality he had accumulated over the past 20 years on this woman in this limited and short period of time. Gu Qingze had been forbidden for too long. It wasn't that he hadn't thought about the relationship between a man and a woman. After all, he was an adult man and naturally had needs. However, he was different from ordinary men. Forget about what happened. Even ordinary kissing and hugging could not be done without a foundation of feelings. It was almost instinctive for him to think about love. It wasn't that he hadn't thought about the relationship between a man and a woman based on feelings. It wasn't purely because he couldn't let go of Bai Ran. At that time, he didn't have any expectations of meeting Bai Ran again. As for the Gu family, they basically turned a blind eye to his relationship problems. Gu Jinglian felt that dating and marriage were two different things. Hence, he was open to dating. However, Gu Qingze couldn't be bothered to deal with it. He felt that it was too tiring to start from knowing each other and then understand each other. In a way, he was too lazy. Therefore, gradually as time passed, he became numb to such things. As long as it was something that could be solved by himself, he would do it half-heartedly. In any case, to him, these were all things that could be solved by himself. However, after meeting Bai Hao, the instinct that had been suppressed in his body for a long time was finally released. It was as if he couldn't get enough of it no matter how much he ate. Bai Ran wanted to cooperate with him, but Gu Qingze was young and hot-blooded. After 2 rounds, he was exhausted. Therefore, not long after, she collapsed in his arms and learned how to act coquettishly. She hummed and pushed him away. Obviously, she couldn't handle it anymore. Unbeknownst to her, Gu Qingze almost couldn't control himself when he heard her whining. "Jin in the future, you're not allowed to act coquettishly with anyone other than me." Gu Qingze suddenly made a strange request. Bai Hao was a little confused. He didn't understand. "What's wrong? Promise me, okay?" When Gu Qingze thought of her using such a tone to act coquettishly with others, regardless of whether it was a man or a woman, he was very offended. "All right." Bai Hao made a generous gesture. "I promise you." What an overbearing man. Viewing Starter Zue New Chapter 8 sections, please go to Hall Guest, mobile address. Starter Zue New Chapter sections, please go to Hall Guest, mobile address. Chapter 143. Reading on mobile phone. Reading on mobile phone. In the afternoon, Bai Ran finally recovered and was able to get out of bed. The two of them packed up and went to the hotel's Western restaurant. She was a little hungry, but it was not a meal. However, this hotel was a 5-star Holiday Inn in Hong Kong. The hotel's luxurious Western restaurant had a huge floor-to-ceiling window. Sitting by the window, not only could one have a panoramic view of the pirates and the forest, but one could also enjoy an especially authentic English afternoon tea. Bai Ran politely declined English cuisine, but the English afternoon tea was quite delicious. Bai Ran looked at the dessert tower in front of her and the fragrant black tea, and felt her whole body relax a little. The dessert tower's decoration was so beautiful that Bai Ran could not help but take a few pictures and share them on her WeChat moments. However, not long after, several WeChat notifications suddenly rang. Bai Ran picked up her phone and saw that it was the company's business department director. She had forgotten that she had forgotten to block her colleagues from the company when she was sharing the pictures. She said that she was not feeling well and wanted to take leave. In the end, she went to have fun. Why can't I get through to her? Is she deliberately not picking up? Bai Ran, I'm warning you, call me back immediately. Otherwise, you'll be punished for absenteeism. In just a few words, the beautiful afternoon mood was completely ruined. Bai Ran's face fell. Gu Qingze saw this and could not help but ask, "What's the matter?" "I just took a few pictures and shared them on WeChat moments." The company director saw it. Oh, Gu Qingze was a little surprised. "Didn't you resign?" "But I haven't resigned yet." When Gu Qingze heard this, he suddenly asked tentatively, "Do you still want to do this job?" Bai Ran looked up and glanced at him. She pursed her lips and said the most heartfelt words. "Actually, I don't want to do this job anymore. In the beginning, I joined this company because I felt that I would be able to gain good experience in this company. I studied design, and in the future, I hope to have my own design studio. However, ever since I joined this company, they only asked for the same designs. Also, because they work with the local wedding dress market, I draw wedding dresses every day until I'm about to throw up. This is not my dream. Gu Qingzi nodded. Then why didn't you resign back then? Because if I change jobs and have no source of income, Auntie will say that I'm a freeloader. Bai Zhe was a strong-willed person. She had a strong sense of self-esteem and could not bear such humiliation. Old Gnawing Clan? She had started working as soon as she graduated. Although her salary wasn't high, it was reasonable. She had followed her aunt's wishes and joined the company. She was tired of the same designs every day. She was not an arrogant person, but with her goal, she absolutely did not want to settle for such a small company. If you're not happy at work, then change your job. It's also very troublesome to find a new job. There's no rush. A good job can't be rushed. Besides, I'm taking care of you. What are you afraid of? Gu Qingzi's especially calm words greatly moved Bai Ran. He said so matter-of-factly that he would take care of her. For a moment, she felt so happy that she was about to float up and watch. Starter Zue New Chapter 8 Sections Welcome to Hall of Visitors, Mobile Address. Watch Starter Zue New Chapter 8 Sections Welcome to Hall of Visitors, Mobile Address. Chapter 144. For the first time in her life, Bai Ran had the feeling that she had someone backing her up. Unconsciously, the corners of her lips curled up as she secretly laughed. Gu Qingzi saw that she was laughing and could not help but reach out to pinch her cheeks gently. What are you laughing at? I feel like you're my big backer. Now that you've said that, I feel more confident. Actually, Bai Ran was not a career-oriented woman. However, she was a person with a strong backbone. Especially after living under someone else's roof for so many years, she believed that no matter what, she had the ability to back herself up. However, after graduation, under her aunt's urging, she found a company and hurriedly started work. She did not consider her career direction and prospects. After joining the company, she designed a bunch of wedding dresses. She was almost numb to it. Originally, designing wedding dresses should have been a blissful thing. However, she often had to work overtime due to large orders. At her peak, she had to submit more than 10 design drafts a week. Although she did not earn much, as long as it was a design, she had to put in a lot of effort. Therefore, almost every design draft was a masterpiece. This was also the reason why the company did not let her go. If it were not for Bai Ran's soft temper, with her talent, after working for a year in this small design company, she would have been the head of the design department. She was too easy to talk to, so she was suppressed. Why else would there be a saying, kind people get bullied? Seeing her satisfied look, Gu Qingzi's heart ached and he pitied her. I'm your backer. After a pause he added, I'm your backer for life. Yeah. Bai Ran leaned her head gently on his shoulder. At this moment on WeChat, the owner of the design department angrily complained again. Bai Ran, do you still want this job? Just because I gave you some color, you started a dye shop. Do you think work is so perfunctory? You don't even care about the company's rules and regulations. Do you believe that I'll fire you? If this goes on, this shabby temple won't be able to accommodate a great Buddha like you. Bai Ran looked at the director's angry words and smiled. He replied lightly, since you've said so, isn't it up to you to decide whether to expel me or not? In an office far away in Beijing, when the director saw Bai Ran's reply, he almost exploded in anger. She had only said those words in a fit of anger. She really couldn't bear to fire him. One had to know that Bai Ran was the head of the design department. It was because of Bai Ran's talent that the company could receive more and more orders. She had threatened to expel Bai Hao just to intimidate him. She had thought that Bai Hao would be scared and beg for mercy after she had shown him her power. After all, in her eyes, Bai Kun had always been a soft persimmon that could be crushed at will. Now, this sentence made her completely dumbfounded. Does this idiot think his wings have hardened? The director had no way out of this embarrassing situation. He didn't know what to do. If he really fired them, what would happen to all the orders piled up there? He was known to want to die for nothing. This is so infuriating. So infuriating. The director slammed the table, his face red. Chapter 145. In the office, an assistant happened to be boiling water. Seeing the angry look on the director's face, she heard the director's nagging and grumbling on Bayu's WeChat. She probably understood what had happened, so she said casually, "This Bayu is really lucky." The director's attention was attracted by her, and he was a little confused. "What do you mean?" "Oh, director, you don't know? I heard that Bayu married a good husband. I heard that he's worth tens of millions." "What's so strange about having a net worth of tens of millions?" The director said disapprovingly. "In this capital, how many people with a net worth of tens of millions can be smashed with a brick?" Sigh, director, "You don't know this. Do you know about the Spring River Imperial Seal?" "I know. It's a very famous real estate. Those who can buy it are the top people in society." The director reacted. "Why did you suddenly mention the Spring River Imperial Seal? I saw that her husband just bought a house there some time ago. Moreover, he has a good relationship with the president of Xingyu Financial Group." The director sucked in a breath of cold air. Most of the designers in this design company were Beijing drifters. Therefore, they worked hard in the hope of leaving a place in the capital. Owning a house in the capital and being able to buy a house were two different concepts. Many people's houses in the capital were obtained through demolition. The old city district was renovated and settled down in a residential area. Therefore, although most of the houses in the residential area were expensive, they could not be sold because they needed them. Secondly, the residential area was just an ordinary real estate. However, the Spring River Imperial Seal was different. This real estate was open to the top elites in society. Just the price alone was enough to make people flinch. Those who could buy the Spring River Imperial Seal were either rich or noble. When he heard that Bayu's husband lived in the Spring River Imperial Seal, the director did not believe it. Listen to her bragging. The houses there cost tens of millions, and you still have to draw numbers. It doesn't matter, you still have to line up obediently. This isn't Bayu bragging. Everyone in our company knows and saw it with their own eyes. Bayu said that her husband has special channels and can buy a house there at a 50% discount. Many colleagues in the company didn't believe it, so they all went with her. In the end, they were slapped in the face in public. Moreover, many people said that Bayu's husband and the president of Xingyu Financial Group, Yun Tianyu. The director called out the name immediately. Yun Tianyu was an influential figure in the capital. It resounded like thunder in the ears. Yes, it was him. The two of them seemed to have a good relationship. Many people guessed that Bayran's husband is also a member of the rich second-generation circle. When the director heard this, he could not help but scoff. "It's not that I want to say this, but this is just a dream. There has to be a limit, right? Rich second generation." Which of the rich second-generation heirs in the capital didn't care about matching up? What kind of family background does Baihao have? She has nothing. She only has a pretty face. Why would someone like her? She felt a little unbalanced. After all, even she hadn't found a partner yet. With a monthly income of 20 to 30,000, she was considered to be at the bottom of the food chain in Beijing. The assistant smiled but didn't say anything. Maybe she's married into a rich family, so she doesn't care about this job at all. From what I see, she definitely has nothing to do with it. How blissful it is to be a young mistress who doesn't have to worry about food and clothing. There wasn't much malice in his words, but they were filled with envy. When the director heard this, he was skeptical. "You're not telling the truth, are you?" Chapter 146. Reading on a mobile phone. Reading on a mobile phone. Everyone in the company knows that I'm not the only one who can decide whether this is true or not. After the assistant finished speaking, she smiled and left. The director leaned back in his chair and suddenly felt a little puzzled. This society was not as romantic as television dramas. What Rich Young Master and Cinderella? This kind of plot could not be played out in reality. There was a reason why families of equal social status should be matched. The disparity between the rich and the poor was not small at all. Not to mention ordinary people like Bayran. Even the female celebrities in the entertainment industry could not wait to squeeze their heads into the gaps of the rich and powerful. However, the real rich and powerful looked down on them. Although the aristocratic system had been abolished in the country, just by looking at the banquets, the charity events, and the famous private clubs, it was clear that the abolition of the aristocratic system was just a superficial thing. In fact, many rich people liked to have the title of aristocrats. Everyone wanted to be a dragon or phoenix among men. The vanity and arrogance of humans had always been deeply ingrained. This was a little puzzling. Why could a commoner like Byron marry into a rich and powerful family? That was the dream of many women. Moreover, Byron was usually very dull and did not know how to please people. In the office, no one was willing to play with her. It was not that she was difficult to get along with. First, it was because she was strict with her discipline. She had to go home after work and rarely attended colleagues' gatherings. Second, she was poor. Because she was poor, sometimes when her colleagues were kind to her, occasionally treating her to a meal or small gifts, she did not dare to accept them. Her ability was limited and she did not know how to repay them. It was also because of this that Byron was a little high and mighty in the eyes of others. Such a girl, what kind of tricks did she use? However, where did this phrase come from? Circle. Since she had really married a rich man, the circle of rich people must not be small, right? If they could get closer to her, then wouldn't they have the opportunity to come into contact with the circle of rich people? Perhaps, she would be lucky enough to find a Mr. Right that she would be in love with. The director of the design department was already 27 years old. He had been in this company for more than 4 years. He was cautious and conscientious, and his dream was to be able to live and work in Beijing. Her hometown was not rich, and was a well-known poor village. After coming to the city, she was deeply attracted by the prosperity and neon lights here. She thought that she must stay in such a city. However, she had been busy with work for the past few years. She didn't like the male colleagues in the company, because they were from ordinary families. She didn't know many big shots and occasionally had the opportunity to go on blind dates. However, based on her qualifications, it seemed that she couldn't find a satisfactory one. However, since Byron was able to marry a rich man, she boasted that her background was better than Byron's. Therefore, she was more confident. Byron had just finished her afternoon tea when the director sent her another WeChat message. However, the tone in this message seemed to be much better. Bai-kun. Previously it was my fault. You were not in good health. As your superior, I should have been more understanding. At the same time, you should be more understanding. I'm also very tired with so many employees. You haven't come to work for a few days, and the partners have been rushing you. I kept asking you when you would come to work, but you didn't reply. Today, I saw you showing off the food on your WeChat moments. I thought you were having fun and didn't look like you were sick. I got angry. Start Zue new chapter section, please go to hall guest, mobile address. Start Zue new chapter section, please go to hall guest, mobile address. Chapter 147. The director was especially good at manipulating people's thoughts. She knew that if Baisheng really married into a wealthy family like the rumors in the company said, then using the company's treatment to threaten her might not work at all. However, she knew that Baisheng was a girl with a strong sense of responsibility. Therefore, she would definitely feel guilty if she were to talk about her responsibilities at work. As expected, when Baisheng heard this, she really felt a little guilty. Indeed, when she heard the director's tactful tone, she also blamed herself. After all, she had not gone to the company for the past few days because of personal reasons, not because of her health. Except for that one time, she really could not get out of bed. In the end, because of the leave application, they had become unhappy, Baisheng said guiltily. Actually, some things have happened recently. I have also seriously considered the problem of work. I keep feeling that this job is not very suitable for me. I want to seek a development that is more suitable for me. At that time, it was indeed because I was not feeling well, but when I applied for leave, the company's handling made me feel a little disappointed. So, I understand, I also understand. You've been wronged, so are you a little disappointed with the company's leave application system? Baisheng said bluntly, yes. If it's because of this reason, I want to apologize to you solemnly. At that time, there was indeed a misunderstanding. When the employee was not feeling well, as the company's manager, I did not comfort her immediately. Instead, I questioned and was aggressive. It was indeed the company's fault. The director's sincere apology stunned Baisheng. If she had known earlier, this director had always been extremely harsh to her. Suddenly he became so gentle and considerate. It was hard for her to get used to it. Baisheng held her phone in a daze. Gu Qingze drank his tea casually at the side while observing her expression. However, he remained silent. On the other end, the director asked again, "In short, if that's the case, you don't have to consider resigning anymore, right?" When Baisheng heard this, she immediately explained, "I don't want to resign because of this." Then, before Baisheng could speak, the director asked, "Do you think the company can't give you a better development?" Have you forgotten? You signed a contract with the company. If you leave, you have to pay the penalty fee. Penalty fee. Baisheng frowned. He did not remember this rule. However, she didn't see it clearly when she signed the contract. At that time, the people in the HR department were busy with work and kept urging her to sign the contract. She thought that it was a legitimate company, but she had indeed neglected the matter of liquidated damages. Gu Qingze heard her and said in a low voice, "I'll pay for the breach of contract." When Baisheng heard this, he said guiltily to the director, "I'll pay the penalty." The penalty for breaking the contract is very high. The director began to scare her. Baisheng said, "I still need to focus on my own future development. I don't think the company's environment is suitable for me." Actually, seeking better development is also a matter of urgency. As the saying goes, a fine bird chooses a tree to nest in. However, in today's society, there is no lack of talent. Who doesn't require many years of work experience to find a job outside? You can work here for a few years and become a senior designer. Then you can set up your own company. Chapter 148. Reading on mobile phone. Reading on mobile phone by Ran was stunned when he heard that. She did not expect that the department head, who usually had the temper of an old hag, would be so gentle and persuasive to her today. Was it really the same person? Bai Yan was not very good at rejecting people. Perhaps, since she was young, there were too few people who treated her well. Therefore, it was fine to say that they were a little mean to her, but she really didn't know how to reject them if they were gentle to her. However, she really wanted to leave, but she did not know how to respond to the department head's gentle tone. "How about this?" the department head probed. "I heard from a few of your colleagues that you got married not long ago." "Yeah. Then you've probably been on a honeymoon during this period of time?" I guess so." Bai Yan glanced at Gu Qingze, who looked at her and smiled. She smiled back and said, "We got married on a vacation." No wonder. The department head's tone was even more apologetic. She said guiltily, "I'm sorry, Bai Yan. I seem to have wronged you. No matter what, you should have fun during this period of time. When you return to the country and come to the company, we'll talk about the details." Okay. After hanging up the phone, Bai Yan looked at Gu Qingze blankly. Gu Qingze asked half jokingly, "What's wrong? Are you softening your heart? Don't tell me you're planning to continue working at the company?" "I heard that the breach of contract costs a lot of money." Gu Qingze smirked. "Didn't I say that I'll pay for you?" "But," Bai Yan pouted and muttered, "I didn't do anything wrong. Why should I pay them the breach of contract?" "There's a price for the breach of contract, but you can't restrict your life because of this visible price. This is not an equivalent exchange." After hearing Gu Qingze's words, Bai Yan suddenly felt enlightened. That's right. She couldn't possibly put her life and future on the line for the sake of a mere breach of contract. Moreover, if you don't want to pay the breach of contract, hire a lawyer and carefully read the contract. If the breach of contract involves the overbearing clause, the company's unreasonable request can be rejected. How much is the lawyer's fee? Bai Zhe began to calculate carefully in his little head. Gu Qingze didn't know whether to laugh or cry. "The legal team is ready-made. My company has them, so you don't have to pay extra." "Wow," Bai Hao nodded. "Okay, let's do that." Little money grubber. Gu Qingze couldn't help but scratch her nose lightly. How could this little fool be so cute and save money for him? "Since we're already married, You can just squander the money I earn. You don't have to be so frugal. Money will run out eventually. But you can't earn all the money you want. You can only earn if you spend money, right? Gu Qing's brainwashing was deeply rooted in people's hearts. When they were in college, Bai Ruo had the nickname of a cheapskate. Being stingy meant being stingy. It was not that she was stingy, but her living expenses were too little. Usually, she did not even have enough to eat and wear. Therefore, she could not take care of the social interactions between friends. She felt a deep sense of guilt every time she spent money. Even though Gu Qingze was so generous, she still couldn't suppress the guilt in her heart. Viewing Starter Zue New Chapter 8 sections, please go to lobby, mobile address. Watch Starter Zue New Chapter sections, please go to lobby, mobile address. Chapter 149. She felt deeply guilty every time she spent money. Even though Gu Qingze was so generous, she still could not suppress the guilt in her heart. Alright, since we're traveling, don't think about unhappy things. Gu Qingze coaxed her. Bai Ran felt a little guilty. Is it because of my work troubles that affect your mood? No. Gu Qingze tucked her messy hair behind her ear and said seriously. As long as you're happy. After all, this trip was prepared for her and them. Bai Yu smiled. Okay. At night, Gu Qingze brought Bai Yu to Causeway Bay. Bai Yu heard of Causeway Bay for the first time in the form of a KTV. Before coming to Hong Kong, she did not know that Causeway Bay was the most famous landmark in Hong Kong. There were many KTV chains in the capital, and one of the more famous ones was Causeway Bay KTV. What kind of place is Causeway Bay? On the way there, Bai Yu was a little curious when she learned that Gu Qingze was bringing her to Causeway Bay. Just like Wangfujing Street in the capital? Gu Qingze said, anyway, it's a pity to come to Hong Kong without shopping or going to department stores. If it's a department store, there's one in the capital too. That's different. Causeway Bay was located in the center of Hong Kong Island, west of the North Coast. It was the main business and entertainment center in Hong Kong. There were many large department stores and shopping malls in the area, including Sogo Department Store, Times Square, Lee Stage Plaza, and the World Trade Center. The Causeway Bay shopping area was also the most expensive area in the world. The Gu family had a commercial building in Causeway Bay. According to rough estimates, the annual rent alone could reach more than 100 billion, which was very impressive. Bai Yu could not help but imagine what kind of place Causeway Bay was. She originally thought that department stores and shopping malls were nothing more than the same concept. However, when they arrived at their destination, they were greeted by colorful neon lights, bustling crowds, and stacked signboards. There were no blind spots. Causeway Bay was not big, but it was especially prosperous. Bai Yu glanced around and felt dazzled. It was too prosperous. Moreover, although there were many people, it gave off a sense of order. Gu Qingze held her hand as they entered the shopping mall. This department store was known as the Treasury. As long as one stepped into this place, there would always be countless ways to overdraft and squander money. This mall is Times. In the crowded square, the lights were especially dazzling and bright, giving people a feeling of glittering jewels. Bai Lian felt that his eyes were stinging. Gu Qingze brought her to the Gucci counter first. The moment they entered the counter, Bai Yu was immediately attracted by the bags displayed in the display window. Gucci had counters in many cities, but there were some designs that could only be found in Beijing that could not be found in the counters in Hong Kong. Similarly, if it was available in Hong Kong, it would also be out of print in Beijing. Bai Ran was immediately captivated by Gucci's 2 limited edition products. She wasn't a bag fanatic in the past, but after Gu Qingze brought her to the counter a few times, it was as if the door to a whole new world had opened for her. The few bags he bought for her were exquisite and beautiful. She couldn't bear to put them down and couldn't even bear to carry them for fear that they would break. She carefully treasured them. Gu Qingze said half jokingly and half seriously, "If you can't bear to carry those bags, it can only mean that you don't have enough bags." Starter Zue New Chapter 8 section, please go to Hangkou, mobile address. Watch Starter Zue New section, please go to client, mobile address. Chapter 150. At first, Bai Yinyan did not understand what he meant by not having enough bags. Next, Gu Qingze used his actions to explain to her what it meant to be a shopaholic. Bai Yanyan boasted that she was a woman who could shop. Although she did not shop much in the past, she often accompanied others to shop. In the past, when she shopped, she only shopped and did not buy anything. It was easy. However, the real tiring part of shopping was that she would enter any store she saw, try on any clothes she liked, pack them up after trying them on, pay for them after packing, and then move to the next stop. From the first floor to the second floor, Guqingzi carried her like a little chick. He stopped at almost every store and pulled her in whenever he saw something nice. Bai Yanyan thought that he owned Times Square too. Swiping his card was like playing around. Before she could look at the price tag, Guqingzi had already paid the bill and packed them up. Two. There wasn't even a buffer. After just one floor, Bai Yanyan started to doubt her life. She was so tired that she panted and asked to rest for a while. However, Guqingzi did not give her the chance. It was rare to find a place to rest in such a huge shopping mall, so he simply continued shopping. Bags, jewelry, branded clothes, cosmetics, lipstick. Guqingzi, who had been single for so many years, had accumulated a lot of money for a wife. In addition to this trip, he had plenty of money. Therefore, he seemed to have been liberated and went crazy. Guqingzi must be an oddity, the complete opposite of other men. The other male subordinates in the company, whether it was accompanying their girlfriends or their wives to go shopping, would always have a bitter expression on their faces when they mentioned it. However, for some reason, Guqingzi felt very envious. He felt that whether it was a bag or a nice dress, not to mention a lipstick that could be bought for a few hundred yuan, he felt that just these valuable possessions could make his girlfriend and wife happy. This kind of happiness was really precious. Bai Yanyan was originally exhausted, but when she reached the MAC counter, she could not walk anymore. She liked lipstick, and MAC was the only lipstick she could afford in the past. Compared to other branded lipsticks that cost hundreds to thousands, MAC lipsticks only cost a little more than 100 yuan each. They were easy to use and had good color rendering. She once had one, and she had been using it until now. Even though she had seen the end of it, she was reluctant to throw it away. Seeing that she liked lipstick, Guqingzi bought an entire box before she even had the chance to try out the color. There were 128 lipsticks in a luxurious box set. There were so many popular brands, and they had everything. Bai Ran had just unscrewed the cap of a lipstick. He hadn't even tried the color on the back of his hand, and he had already placed an order? Bai Ran tugged at Guqingzi's sleeve in shock. What did you buy? Lipstick. 128. Bai Kun wanted to cry but had no tears. I only have one mouth. I can't even finish it. Moreover, lipstick has a shelf life, and the shelf life is very short. It's okay. If I can't finish it, I'll just keep it as a collection. Guqingzi said, such beautiful lips. Logically speaking, even if you put on makeup and lipstick every day, you'll be able to keep it on for at least half a year. But there are so many color codes. Do you only use 3 color codes a year? Oh my god. Guqingzi, a straight man, actually knew about color signals. Chapter 151. Brother Qingzi? A familiar and surprised voice came from not far away. Guqingzi turned around and saw that it was Mu Yueyao. He did not expect to see her in Hong Kong. Guqingzi was not mentally prepared at all. Mu Yueyao looked around cautiously, until she was sure that there was no one else around Guqingzi. Then she walked over carefully. Guqingzi glanced at her guilty expression and understood that she must have done something wrong. What? Guqingzi looked at her. Why are you so cautious? Are you alone? No. Guqingzi looked at her from the corner of his eye. Mu Yueyao saw that Bai Ran was choosing blush and eyeshadow. She was surprised. This is your sister-in-law. Are you married? Mu Yueyao was even more shocked. Yeah, I haven't had the time to inform her yet. When is the wedding? Guqingzi raised his eyebrows. At least until Nana wakes up. At the mention of Natalia, Mu Yueyao's eyelids twitched and she smiled. Oh right, we've already agreed on it. No matter whose wedding it is, we can't miss it. Yeah. Then, Mu Yueyao looked at him and then at Bai Ran. She asked curiously, why are you in Hong Kong? We're planning to travel and get married first. As for the ceremony, We'll officially send you an invitation when Nana wakes up. Okay. Then I'll wait for Brother Ching's wedding invitation. After a pause, Mu Yueyao sighed. I wonder when Nana will wake up. Tell me honestly. Gu Qingze suddenly said something out of the blue. Ha. Mu Yueyao pointed at herself. Me? It's not the holidays now. Why are you in Hong Kong? Don't you have class? Mu Yueyao's face turned red. She was extremely embarrassed. Did you skip class again? Gu Qingze inched closer. Tell me, why did you skip class? Jing Yang has a fan meeting in Hong Kong tomorrow. I wanted to come early to pick him up and... Gu Qingze's face darkened at the mention of Jing Yang. You guys haven't reconciled yet? Mu Yueyao's face fell at his words. She let out a long sigh, turned around, and rubbed her forehead with a headache. I don't know. He seems to be avoiding me, but even if he doesn't forgive me, I don't care. Even if she could only hide in a corner and secretly watch him, that would be good. Gu Qingze sighed internally. Yueyao was the little princess of the Mu family. She had been doted on since she was young. No one was willing to let her suffer the slightest grievance. Why did it have to be Jing Yang? It was simply a calamity in her life. It had been 5 years since that incident. Jing Yang still could not forgive Yueyao. However, everyone felt that it was not Yueyao's fault. However, Jing Yang stubbornly believed that it was her fault. Yueyao also felt that she had let Jing Yang down. Hence, in front of Jing Yang, she hid her princess-like arrogance and was careful. She even had a sense of inferiority that did not match her status. She wanted to make it up to Jing Yang as much as possible. She had also said that she wanted to atone for that incident. However, Yueyao, don't torture yourself because of that incident. Chapter 152. It's been so long. Are you still unwilling to let go of yourself? Gu Qingze's heart ached for her. She was not responsible for what happened back then. However, after so many years, Yueyao still refused to let go of her. I also want to let go of myself. Mu Yueyao looked up. Her usual innocent smile was gone as she said calmly, if you want to let go of yourself, you have to let go of him. She suddenly clenched her fists and bit her lip hard. Gu Qingze's heart ached as he raised his hand and pulled her into his embrace. Bai Ran had just finished choosing her eyeshadow. When she turned around, she saw Gu Qingze hugging a girl. She was surprised and many question marks popped up in her mind. What was going on? Why was he hugging a girl in an unfamiliar city? Bai Ran did not think too much about it at first. Instead, she had a strange idea. There were many new street games nowadays. For example, blindfolded hugging and kissing any stranger, for example. The recently popular TikTok app. Many boys and girls took their phones to the streets to tease passers-by. Bai Ran suddenly realized what was going on. The person being hugged was her husband. Bai Ran was also somewhat territorial. She immediately walked over with a smile, but she aggressively walked behind Mu Yueyao. She lowered her voice and suddenly said, "What are you doing?" Mu Yueyao was shocked by this voice and immediately separated from Gu Qingze. Gu Qingze looked at Bai Ran and raised his eyebrows slightly. However, he did not explain immediately. Instead, he smiled gently and said nothing. On the other hand, Mu Yueyao was flustered. She knew that Bai Ran was Gu Qingze's newlywed wife. With the mentality of avoiding suspicion, she immediately distanced herself from Gu Qingze. "Hello, sister-in-law." She stood upright. Her outstanding performance in the military training in university made Bai Ran think that she had a military background. What a coincidence. It's fate to meet Big Brother Qingze and sister-in-law here. Ha 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 ha. She laughed awkwardly, which made Bai Hao puzzled. This girl, why did she feel so guilty? Mu Yueyao was stared at by Bai Ran and felt even more guilty. She quickly tried to smooth things over. Big Brother Qingze is so mean. When did he get married? He didn't announce it to the public. Bai Hao got straight to the point. Why were you hugging each other? Mu Yueyao explained, because Brother Qingze and I haven't seen each other in a long time. I didn't expect to meet you in Hong Kong. Bai Ran looked at Gu Qingze suspiciously. Gu Qingze smiled and explained, I haven't had the chance to introduce you. This is Yueyao Mu. Ugh. Do you still remember my friend at the Spring River Heavenly Seal? Yes. Remember, his name is Yin Tianyu. Yueyao is his biological sister. His biological sister. No wonder when Bai Ran saw Yueyao, he immediately felt that there was something familiar about her. Just like Yin Tianyu, whom she met at the Imperial Seal, and also the movie queen, Yin Shirshir. So she was his biological sister. Bai Ran's face turned slightly red. After all, she had misunderstood Yueyao just now. Yueyao. She smiled and extended her hand to Yueyao in a friendly manner. Hello, I'm Bai Ran. Yueyao hurriedly extended her hand. Hello, sister-in-law Bai Ran. Don't call me sister-in-law. It sounds awkward. No, sister-in-law is sister-in-law. Chapter 153. Alright. Gu Qingze was amused by Yueyao's flattering look. Which hotel are you staying at? Hilton. When are you going back? Just as Gu Qingze finished speaking, Bai Xing added, Why don't we have dinner together later? Mu Yueyao quickly shook her head. It's okay, no. Let's go together. I have to pick her up at the airport later. Pick her up at the airport. Bai Ran looked at Gu Qingze in confusion. What? What does this mean? Gu Qingze said, she has something to do later. I'll treat you and Jingyang to dinner tomorrow. Okay. Mu Yueyao quickly retreated. Bai Ran looked at her back view strangely and asked curiously, What's going on? She seems very shy. Gu Qingze was a little embarrassed. Well, it's because I didn't have time to tell her about my marriage. It was indeed rushed. Also, wasn't our previous marriage considered a secret? I didn't tell my friends and colleagues either. So, it's normal that your friends don't know. You don't have to look so guilty. Gu Qingze's lips curled into a smile. Suddenly he looked at her mysteriously, but there was a hint of playfulness in his gaze. Your reaction just now seemed particularly strange. Strange? What's strange? Being stared at by him, by you felt inexplicably guilty. Gu Qingze's gaze deepened. He lowered his head and asked in a voice that only she could hear, You saw me hugging another girl just now. From your gaze, it seemed like you were jealous? Bai Ran was so shocked that she almost bit her tongue. She stuttered. I wasn't jealous just now. I was just a little surprised. Is it difficult to admit that you're jealous? Gu Qingze pinched her nose lovingly and dotingly. Tell me you're jealous. Bai Hao held his breath and puffed his cheeks. This feeling of being seen through was so embarrassing. She had always wanted to be a magnanimous wife. However, when she saw her husband hugging a strange girl, her first reaction wasn't to find out who the girl was, but to feel jealous. He felt that the scene was very eye-piercing. Bai Hao was like a kid who had made a mistake. He lowered his head. If I'm jealous, will you feel unhappy? Gu Qingze raised his eyebrows. How can that be? I'm happy that you're jealous. Why? Because I would think that you must care a lot about me. That's why you're jealous. As Gu Qingze spoke, he gently kissed her cheek. Sometimes, I wish you could be more petty. When Bai Yu heard this, his face turned even redder. She pursed her lips. When she heard this, she finally admitted, I was a little jealous just now. I felt sour. Ha. Gu Qingze suddenly laughed softly. His voice was especially pleasant to the ears. It was as clear as spring water, without any impurities. Hearing this voice, Bai Ran's face burned even more. She could vaguely hear him ask, Have you chosen your eyeshadow? Here's the ticket. Bai Ran lowered her head and passed the ticket to him. Gu Qingze said to her, Wait for me here. I'll go pay the bill. Okay. Bai Ran kept her head down as she secretly watched Gu Qingze's back view as he went to pay the bill. The more she watched, the happier she felt. Watch first appearance Zue new chapter section please go client. Mobile address. Watch first appearance Zue new chapter section please go client. Mobile address. Chapter 154. After shopping in Times Square, Bai Ran had done a lot of planning before coming to Hong Kong. Therefore, she suggested that they go to the online celebrity restaurant to check in. In the age of the internet, the concept of online celebrity restaurants and online celebrity dessert shops were everywhere. However, Gu Qingze did not have a good impression of online celebrity restaurants. The so-called online celebrity restaurants were actually cheap, affordable, and more delicious. In the past, when he was on a business trip to another city, He would occasionally want to go to the online celebrity restaurants, on a whim. However, in fact, many online celebrity restaurants often had a bad service attitude. Perhaps it was because business was too good, and they had to serve many customers every day, so the waiters' tempers were not necessarily too good. In fact, there were countless places that were better than the online celebrity restaurants. It was just that because of the price, they did not have much exposure. Gu Qingze was not very willing to go to the online celebrity restaurants, because as expected, the attitude of the staff should be quite bad. Some people did not care about the service attitude. However, Gu Qingze was a very particular man. He was not willing to spend money to get angry. Don't go to the online celebrity restaurants. Gu Qingze suddenly said. I don't think there's anything good about the online celebrity restaurants. Huh? Actually, there are many restaurants that are better than the online celebrity restaurants. I used to come to Hong Kong for business trips often, so I know a few good restaurants. Do you want to try them? When Bai Ran heard this, she was almost drooling. Okay. Gu Qingze saw her excited expression and could not help but laugh. Why do your eyes seem to light up when it comes to delicious food? Because I'm so hungry. I'm a little hungry. As Bai Ran spoke, she tilted her head. I think that in this world, only love and delicious food can't be let down. Okay, you won't let me down. It's a good thing that you like to eat. How is it a good thing? Because if we quarrel in the future, as long as I take you to eat delicious food, you definitely won't be angry. Gu Qingze said it so matter-of-factly. Bai Ran said, won't you feed me until I'm white and fat like this? Gu Qingze said with a serious expression. Isn't it good to be white and fat? You're so thin now. When I hold you in my arms, I feel that there's not much meat on your body other than bones. Emph. Bai Kun pretended to be angry and said, when I eat until I'm white and fat, won't you dislike me? Why would I dislike it? Gu Qingze raised his eyebrows and said, I like you. Even if you're as fat as a pig, I don't care. Really? But I can't accept that I'm too fat and out of shape, Bai Hao said with a look of disbelief. If that was the case, she wouldn't be able to wear any pretty clothes. She was obsessed with beauty, so she was especially strict with her body. Gu Qingze pinched her cheek and said, to be honest, I don't like you when you're too skinny. If she had more meat on her body, she would be even cuter. If you're too skinny, I won't feel comfortable holding you in my arms at night. It's not good to be too fat. Yes, it's a little meaty. A little plumper is enough. When Bai Kun heard this, he was still a little skeptical. Let's go. If we're any later, we'll have to line up again. Gu Qingze naturally held her hand. Viewing Starter Zue New Chapter 8 Sections. Welcome to Hall of Visitors. Mobile address. Watch Starter Zue New Chapter 8 Sections. Welcome to Hall of Visitors. Mobile address. Chapter 155. Gu Qingze knew that there was an authentic Cantonese restaurant in Hong Kong that tasted pretty good. Hong Kong was inclusive of all things. The food culture of various countries bloomed here. However, when he came to Hong Kong, he naturally had to taste authentic Cantonese food. Gu Qingze often went abroad, but after traveling to so many countries, he still felt that China's food culture was the most delicious. Gu Qingze had a preference for Cantonese food. In Hong Kong, there were many authentic Cantonese dishes, but for the picky Gu Qingze, the restaurants were also divided into different grades. As he was a regular customer, he would come to this restaurant every time he came to Hong Kong. Purple Air from the East was the name of this Cantonese restaurant. It was very recognizable and was easy to remember. When the manager saw Gu Qingze, he welcomed him warmly. Are you here on a business trip again? No. Gu Qingze pushed Bai Sheng in front of the manager and introduced her solemnly. This is my wife. This is our wedding trip. Hong Kong is the starting point. We plan to travel around the world to commemorate our wedding. When the manager heard that it was a wedding trip, he was a little surprised. A wedding trip? Yes. Although there were many people who wanted to go on a wedding trip, and it was trending, not many people actually took action. When he heard that it was a wedding trip, the manager was so excited that his face was flushed red. Mr. Gu, you came at the right time. We have a honeymoon room here. It seems that fate has decided to prepare it for you. Guqingzi nodded and held Baisheng's hand as he followed the manager to the room. Along the way, Baisheng was really getting more and more nervous. The restaurant's furnishings were especially luxurious. Although many glittering elements were used, they were not tacky. Instead, they showed a noble style. Baisheng was a little worried. She asked nervously in a low voice, "Will the expenses here be very high?" It had almost become an instinct for her to care about the amount of expenses. Because her life had always been tight, no matter what expenses she had, she would prioritize whether the amount of expenses would exceed her expectations. Guqingzi said seriously, "From now on, you're not allowed to think about spending anymore." "I'm worried." The worry on Baisheng's face was so serious that Guqingzi didn't know whether to laugh or cry. "What are you worried about?" "I'm afraid that I'll spend too much money. What if I don't have enough money to go home halfway?" Guqingzi tried hard to hold back his laughter and said, "Then I'll sell you, okay?" In a moment of desperation, Baisheng blurted out, "But I don't think I can sell for much money." "Ha ha ha ha." Guqingzi burst out laughing. He had always been a reserved person. Smiling like this was already a bit of a loss of self-control. "Idiot, how are you worthless? You're a priceless treasure that only people can't afford. Besides, I won't really sell you." "Well, don't mention the money anymore. Since we're going to travel around the world, I've brought enough money with me." He even brought a few black cards with him. The limit of the black card was unlimited. There was nothing to worry about. Only then did Baisheng relax. After the two of them entered the private room, Baisheng's concept of luxury was refreshed. The private room was especially big. The moment they entered the room, they were attracted by the crystal chandelier that occupied the entire ceiling. The chandelier was made up of countless crystal tubes. When the wind blew, they would collide with each other, creating a pleasant tinkling sound. Viewing Starter Zue New Chapter 8 Sections. Welcome to Hall of Visitors, mobile address. Watch Starter Zue New Chapter 8 Sections. Welcome to Hall of Visitors, mobile address. Chapter 156. It was too beautiful. The entire ceiling of the huge private room was occupied by this chandelier. Wasn't this chandelier too big? And it must have cost a fortune, right? She had seen a chandelier that was 1/10 the size of the chandelier. Just the chandelier alone cost tens of thousands. Just the chandelier in the private room must have cost several times the cost. Once they entered the private room, Byran stared at the chandelier. Guqingzi gently tugged at her sleeve. "What are you looking at?" "I'm looking at how many crystal tubes there are." Beside them, the waiter smiled knowingly and immediately explained, "Sir, our chandelier is made up of a total of 4,600 crystal tubes." More than 4,000 tubes. It was so grand. Byran was so shocked that her mouth opened wide and she gasped. Before she could finish gasping, her peripheral vision was attracted by the luxurious floor-to-ceiling balcony. The private room was made up of a suite. Inside it, there was a pantry, a reception room, a bathroom and a dining room. In addition, there was also a 40-square-meter balcony. The balcony was surrounded by roses. Dark green vines wrapped around the railings of the balcony. There was an inexplicable beauty to it. This time, the inhalation was exceptionally long. "It's too beautiful." It was her first time eating in such a beautiful environment. She felt inexplicably touched. The heart of a young girl that had long withered in her heart seemed to have been revived. Guqingzi saw that Byran couldn't hide the surprise and love on her face and felt satisfied. Although this restaurant's per capita spending was high, the environment was really good. Other than the environment, the taste was also very good. The flavor was unique. It was much more meaningful than squeezing into the crowded shops that were popular on the internet. Byran sat down and waited to order. However, after the waiter settled them down, he lit the candles and left quietly. Byran was speechless. "What's going on?" Guqingzi raised his eyebrows. What do you mean what's going on? Isn't anyone ordering?" "Ordering?" Guqingzi smiled and explained gently. "There are only two menus here. One is the family menu, and the other is the lover's menu. The dishes on the menu are fixed. You can't choose." Ah, Byran felt that this way of eating was a little novel, but he still couldn't help but worry. However, if the set meal is fixed, then won't it be too much to eat? The amount here is based on everyone's average appetite. It won't be a lot. Moreover, it's very delicious. Even if you're full, you won't notice it easily. It had to be said that the owner of the restaurant had a unique way of doing business. Imagine a dish that was incomparably delicious, but there was only a fixed amount of it. No matter how delicious something was, it was inevitable that one would get sick of it after eating too much. With such a fixed amount of food, there would be nothing left after eating it. If one felt that it was delicious, they would feel that it was not enough. Next time, they would still be unable to resist coming here. Every time they ate, their experience would be just right, and they would not overdo it. Instead, it would leave them with an incomparable aftertaste. It was said that a couple came here for a meal on their first date. Since then, they were obsessed with the delicacies here, and would come here a few times a month. The expenses here were very high. It was already good enough that he rarely came here. It was too extravagant to come a few times a month. In the end, the man was so miserable that he almost went bankrupt. He quickly broke up with his girlfriend, which made people not know whether to laugh or cry. Viewing Starter Zue New Chapter 8 sections, please go to Tangku, mobile address. Starter Zue New Chapter sections, please go to Tangku, mobile address. Chapter 157. After sitting down for about half an hour, the dishes began to be served in an orderly manner. Guangzhou cuisine included the Pearl River Delta, Shaoguan, Zhangjiang, and other places. The ingredients were rich, the selection was meticulous, and the skills were excellent. It was clear but not bland, fresh but not uncommon, tender but not raw, and oily but not greasy. Generally, in terms of cooking, it was good at stir-frying. It required the control of the fire and the oil temperature to be just right. At the same time, it was also compatible with many Western cooking methods. It paid attention to the momentum and grade of the dishes. Chaozhou cuisine originated from the Chaos Han area. It was the best of Min and Guangdong, forming its own style. Among them, it was good at cooking seafood. Soups, vegetables, and beets were the most unique. The knife skills were exquisite, and the taste was pure. Dongjiang cuisine originated from the Dongjiang area of Guangdong. The dishes were mostly meat, and there were very few seafood. The main ingredients were prominent, and it paid attention to fragrance, heavy oil, and the taste was salty. It was good at casseroles and had a unique local flavor. Originally, Bairan thought that she would definitely not be used to it. She was born in the capital, but she was born spicy. Originally, it was hard for her to imagine what sweet tofu pudding tasted like in the north and south. It was said that the taste of Cantonese cuisine was on the sweet side. Among the 6 cold dishes, the most famous in Cantonese cuisine, white-cut chicken and honey roast pork. Bairan ate a piece of barbecued pork and was surprised. She had already defined the taste of barbecued pork in her mind. No matter how delicious it would only taste like that. She did not expect the authentic honey roast pork to taste so delicious. Bairan could not help but start to study. What seasoning was used to make this plate of barbecued pork? How could the same seasoning be delicious in some restaurants and ordinary in others? Although she did not often eat Cantonese cuisine, she had occasionally eaten Cantonese cuisine at gatherings. The taste was not so authentic and delicious. It was so delicious that she cried tears of happiness. Bairan held her chopsticks and was still intoxicated by the aftertaste of the barbecued pork. Gu Qingze recommended another set of Hong Kong-style shrimp dumplings. Eat this. Okay. Bairan was really conquered by the delicious taste of Cantonese cuisine. Seeing that Gu Qingze strongly recommended the shrimp dumplings, she immediately reached out her chopsticks and picked one up. He put a thin and tender prawn dumpling into his mouth. Before he could chew it carefully, the skin broke under the gentle bite of his teeth. The fresh and tender gravy and the delicious aroma of the prawns immediately rushed into his mouth. Ugh, Baihao's eyes brightened. He couldn't help but twist his body and shake his head. He looked so cute. Gu Qingze didn't know whether to laugh or cry. This is so fun. Why are you jumping up and down while eating? It was as if they were dancing. Delicious. Baihao couldn't help but pick up another one. As soon as he put it into his mouth, he started to nod like a little rabbit. Gu Qingze had never seen a person who wanted nothing more than to dance while eating. Ever since he was young, he had received a strict upbringing. Gu Gu Jinglian was especially strict when it came to family education. Although they were not as strict as before, they had more rules than ordinary families. When he was young, whenever he ate something delicious, his body would shake uncontrollably. However, as he gradually grew up, he followed the rules and basically did not show any emotions when he ate. Whether it was delicious or not, it was all the same. If Bai Ran behaved like this, Gu Jinglian would say that he had no manners. However, he felt that Bai Hao's unruly display of his true feelings was very cute. Chapter 158. At the airport. It was packed with people. Many fans were holding flowers in their hands, eagerly anticipating the appearance of their idol. They were all looking at the screen, waiting for the flight carrying their idol to land in front of them. Mu Yueyao stood at the closest spot, leaning against the railing. She was holding the flowers in her hands, feeling a little nervous. Suddenly, a scream came from the crowd. Jingyang is here. The next second, a group of intimidating bodyguards appeared at the arrival gate. The men in black suits cleared the way. Even though there were so many bodyguards surrounding him, a tall figure stood out among them. Immediately after, the media, who were waiting at the scene, rushed forward like crazy. The cameras flashed and Jing Yang's black sunglasses came in handy. He was wearing a slim-fit coat and a mask. The flight from America to Hong Kong was very long. He looked a little tired as he walked forward with his head lowered. When Mu Yueyao saw Jing Yang, she immediately went up to him with the flowers in her arms. Brother Jing Yang. Before she could finish her sentence, the man in the center of the circle suddenly turned around. However, when his gaze landed on her, he immediately turned away coldly. Mu Yueyao was stunned. He had clearly seen her, but he ignored her. While she was in a daze, she was pushed to the ground by the crowd. In order to get closer to their idol, the fans used all their brute force to push forward. Mu Yueyao was pushed to the ground. When she got up in a daze, the crowd had already gone far away. The flowers in her arms fell to the ground in the midst of the shoving. Countless feet trampled over them. The petals fell and were crushed, almost turning into mush. Mu Yueyao looked at the bouquet of flowers and her tears fell. Her heart seemed to have turned into countless petals, and was extremely broken. He saw her, but he didn't stop walking. Instead, he quickly left the airport under the protection of the bodyguards. In the blink of an eye, she was the only one left in the originally crowded arrival hall. When the cleaning auntie saw her, she immediately walked over and asked with concern, "Are you okay?" Mu Yueyao curled her lips and smiled. She wanted to smile, but her tears fell even more violently. How did it become like this? He used to be her strongest pillar of support. But now they were like strangers. He walked past her, his eyes cold and indifferent. He didn't even look back. Yueyao silently picked up the flowers on the ground and hugged them tightly in her arms. She squatted on the ground and was stared at by the staff. She couldn't help but feel a little embarrassed and immediately buried her head in her arms. "Ai, this girl is so beautiful. Why is she crying so sadly?" They seem to be Jing Yang's fans. These children, instead of studying, they came here to chase after celebrities. I wonder if they treat their idols so well, but how do they treat their parents? Do you still need to ask? He must be an ingrate. The flowers were crushed, but he didn't even look at his idol. The group of people seemed to be regretful and mocking as they shook their heads and left in twos and threes. Mu Yueyao didn't seem to hear what they were saying. She hugged the flowers and walked towards the door alone. At the entrance, the fans still left every day, chattering about the itinerary for the next day. It seemed that Jing Yang had already left in his car. Viewing Starter Zue New Chapter 8 Sections. Welcome to Hall of Visitors, Mobile Address. Chapter 159. Yueyao quietly walked along the main road of the airport with the flowers in her arms. This was a place not far from the drop-off area. The taxi arrived with the guests and left with the guests. On the huge overpass, she was the only one walking on the side of the road. Her back view looked lonely. During this time, countless cars brushed past her and almost hit her, but her expression did not change at all. However, the passers-by could not help but feel frightened when they saw her. They stopped their cars from time to time to remind her, "Young lady, it's so late. Why are you walking on the street alone? Where are you going? Get in the car? Take a ride." Yueyao only shook her head. She did not hear what they were saying at all. Whether it was out of concern or other intentions, she just hoped that these noises would be as far away from her as possible, until a nanny van stopped behind her. Honk, honk, honk. The car honked. The sudden movement gave her a big fright. Yueyao hugged the scattered flowers and turned around in surprise. However, she only saw a pair of particularly glaring lights. She saw the Mercedes-Benz logo and saw the completely dark car window. She frowned and looked at it suspiciously. Just as she was about to turn around, behind her, there were a few more honking sounds. This time, she was completely annoyed. Yueyao hugged the flowers and walked toward the door of the front passenger seat. However, the door of the back seat opened, and a man in a black suit walked out. He looked like a bodyguard. "Miss Yueyao, please get in the car." "Get in the car." Yueyao was suspicious. "What are you doing?" "Please get in the car." The man repeated again, but his attitude was surprisingly good. Yueyao could not help but look at the back seat. From her angle, she could vaguely see the silhouette of a man. She was a little surprised. From the silhouette of this figure, she immediately thought of Jing Yang. Could it be him? Yueyao walked toward the car door again. However, the bodyguard raised his hand and gently pressed it against her back, pushing her into the car. After some hesitation, Yueyao sat in the back seat. However, she suddenly became reserved. Jing Yang did not speak. He just looked ahead. The bodyguard got into the front passenger seat and closed the door, cutting off all the noise outside the car. The soundproofing of the car was very good. She could even clearly hear the man's steady and quiet breathing beside her. She was at a loss for a moment. She lowered her head and looked at the flowers in her arms that had been crushed by someone's foot. She was even more embarrassed. In his opinion, she must be very stupid. He wanted to throw it away, but he couldn't just open the window and throw it away. Yueyao hugged the flowers tightly in annoyance. She didn't know whether to throw them away or not. She just sat there like a fool. The man beside her didn't say anything, and he didn't even pay attention to her. His eyes were looking out the window, and she didn't know what he was looking at. After a long time, he suddenly spoke. "Don't do this kind of thing again." "Such a thing?" Yueyao widened her eyes in surprise. "What's the matter?" Jing Yang did not look at her. Instead, he snorted. "What do you think?" Yueyao felt a little wronged. She had traveled thousands of miles to Hong Kong just to pick him up from the airport, but he brushed it off by saying such a thing. No matter how warm her heart was, it was instantly splashed with a basin of cold water. "I know." Yueyao was a little peeved. "I won't do it again." Jing Yang asked again, "Where are you staying?" "I'll get the chauffeur to send you back." End of chapter. Chapter 160. Just as Yueyao was about to answer, she suddenly realized that she had booked the same hotel as him. If she were to tell him that the hotel she had booked was the hotel that the organizer had arranged for him, wouldn't it seem too deliberate? Yueyao gulped, feeling wronged. She pursed her lips but didn't say anything. Seeing that she was silent, Jing Yang frowned and asked, "Where are you staying?" He repeated his words again, his tone showing his impatience. Yueyao immediately said, "Drop me off at the junction. I'll take a cab back." "I said I'll get the chauffeur to send you. Why are you sending me?" Yueyao was trying to provoke him. She smiled helplessly and said, "Didn't you say so? You told me not to pester you anymore. You can just drop me off at the junction. Don't worry, no matter how capable I am, I won't pester you anymore." Jing Yang silently scrutinized her for a long time. After a long silence, he said, "I came back to pick you up on account of your daddy and mommy. Yueyao, don't refuse a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit." Because of his words, Yueyao's grievances finally overflowed. She held back her tears, but she stubbornly forced them back. Gritting her teeth, she looked up and said, "I don't want you to care about me. Don't care about me. And don't use my daddy and mommy to pressure me. Jing Yang, don't go overboard." Jing Yang looked at her silently but didn't say a word. Yueyao then realized that his gaze had become even colder. Because of her words, his expression suddenly collapsed. Yueyao bit her lip, knowing that her words had angered him. She didn't say another word. It was so strange. She had lost control once again. Clearly, she wanted to get close to him and win him back. However, the relationship between the two people was once again brought to the freezing point. In the Mu family, everyone dotes on you and spoils you. It's okay for you to be arrogant because of that. But with me, I don't have to indulge you. As Jingyang spoke, the car arrived at the junction. He instructed the chauffeur to stop the car, and the car stopped by the roadside. Jingyang looked out of the window and did not look at her again. Although he didn't say anything, the cold air reminded her that he was chasing her out of the car. Mu Yueyao didn't stay any longer. She hugged the flowers and got out of the car directly. As soon as she got out of the car, the bodyguard got out of the front passenger seat and closed the door. He then returned to the front passenger seat and the car sped away. Mu Yueyao did not turn back to look at the car. It was not until the sound of the engine had faded away that her tears stopped falling. How did it end up like this? Even if it was because of that incident, so many years should be enough, right? In front of him, she had always been humble, patient, pandering, and guilty. He saw it all but remained unmoved. Was she so unforgivable? Even if she was young and ignorant and made a mistake, after so many years, even if he didn't forgive her, he wouldn't look at her with such hatred. If apologizing was useful, she was willing to apologize to him 1,000,000 times. If there was a way to pay for her mistakes, she was willing to do everything she could to repay the past. But the past could no longer be reversed. Why couldn't he forgive her? Mu Yueyao stood by the roadside. At this moment, the street was no longer as busy as before. There were few pedestrians and only cars coming and going. She knew that he wouldn't instruct the chauffeur to turn around. He had really abandoned her. Chapter 161. Mu Yueyao returned to the hotel and walked into the elevator. She wanted to swipe her card, but when she searched all her pockets, she realized that her bag was gone. The card was in her bag, but she couldn't find her bag. Mu Yueyao was stunned. She furrowed her brows. Even when the elevator door slowly closed and started to rise, she was still in a daze. Where was her bag? She remembered that she was carrying it when she went to the airport, but when she came back, she couldn't remember when her bag had suddenly disappeared. When she came back, she walked all the way back and didn't seem to have met anyone. In the end, she hailed a taxi. Yes, when she paid for the taxi, her bag seemed to still be beside her. Mu Yueyao couldn't remember at that moment. Her bag was really gone. Other than the hotel card, her passport and all her other documents were in her bag. Mu Yueyao then realized the seriousness of the matter. Damn it. The money and bank cards didn't matter. Although she had a credit card, the credit card limit was relatively small. Besides, she could cancel it at the bank at any time. But those documents and all kinds of proof, and most importantly, if she lost her room card, where should she stay tonight? Unknowingly, the elevator doors opened again with a ding. When the doors opened, Mu Yueyao looked up. However, when she saw a group of people standing at the door, she was completely stunned again. She bumped into him again, Jingyang. He must have returned to the hotel early, but he didn't appear alone. Besides his manager and assistant, there was also a gorgeously dressed and extremely beautiful girl beside him. She was dressed sexily, and when she smiled, there was a hint of coquettishness. The reason why Mu Yueyao was stunned was because this girl was standing right next to Jingyang without any gap between them. They looked really intimate. Jingyang was originally talking to the girl beside him. When he turned his head and saw Mu Yueyao standing in the elevator, he was also stunned for a moment. He suddenly reached out and held the girl's hand. The girl was also stunned for a moment. Her face immediately turned red and she held Jingyang's hand back shyly and intimately. The two of them held hands tightly and walked into the elevator together. The hotel's VIP elevator wasn't very big to begin with. When the group of 5 walked into the elevator, Yueyao was immediately squeezed into a corner. She wasn't very tall, and from her angle, she could only see Jingyang and the girl holding hands tightly. She was separated from the two of them by 2 assistants, but she could vaguely feel that they had a close relationship. It was already so late. Where were they going? Furthermore, Jingyang was staying in this hotel. The others were either agents or assistants. What about this girl? It was already so late. Why would she appear together with him? Could it be? Was she the partner the organizer had arranged for Jingyang? It was said that for many celebrities, the organizers would considerately prepare a beautiful girl for the male celebrity to accompany them. During these few days of local activities, this girl would always be by his side, doing whatever he wanted. Many male idols couldn't fall in love during the contract period, let alone get married. However, physiological needs could not be ignored. Therefore, the organizers took these problems into consideration and usually arranged for a girl of such status. Usually, when the celebrity returned to the hotel, the girl would already be waiting in the room. At this time, were they preparing to go out for supper or to go to a nightclub to drink? Chapter 162. At the thought of this, Mu Yueyao's face turned green. Was this the girl that the organizers had assigned to him? Looking at this girl's appearance, she was of the highest quality. However, the air of a prostitute in her movements could not be concealed. In the past, he wouldn't even look at this kind of girl. Now, seeing him so close to this girl, so intimate, there was a tacit understanding between the two of them that people couldn't bear to look at. Mu Yueyao had to admit that she was jealous. Why did he suddenly become so depraved? Or was he doing it on purpose for her to see? But how did he know that she would appear in this hotel? Mu Yueyao's emotions were in a mess. Little did she know that while she was silently observing Jing Yang, the girl beside Jing Yang was also silently observing her. Seeing that Mu Yueyao was staring at Jing Yang, the girl snorted and laughed. "You're Jing Yang's fan, aren't you?" As soon as she said this, everyone looked in Mu Yueyao's direction. Except for Jing Yang. His gaze never fell on her. He only looked silently in the direction of the elevator door. The girl tightened her grip on Jing Yang's arm again and said mockingly, "As a fan, can't you be a little more sensible? Jing Yang has already made it clear that he doesn't like sightseeing fans, especially sightseeing fans who chase him to the hotel." Mu Yueyao looked at her silently. Not to be outdone, she retorted, "And who are you?" This rhetorical question stumped her. The girl looked at Jing Yang, and then looked at Mu Yueyao. She snorted coldly and said, "What right do you have to ask? How can you be so sure that I'm a fan?" Mu Yueyao suddenly said mockingly, "Why don't you suspect that I'm a paparazzi?" When the girl heard this, her expression changed and she looked at Jing Yang worriedly. Jing Yang finally turned his head and glanced indifferently at Mu Yueyao. But he still didn't say anything and turned his head back. The girl furrowed her brows worriedly. She knew that Jing Yang especially hated paparazzi. If this girl was really a paparazzi, then if the news of her spending the night with Jing Yang got out, Jing Yang would definitely be angry. But she was a little suspicious. It wasn't that she was biased against the paparazzi. Instead, as paparazzi, they often had to stay up all night just to wait for news. It was common for them to stay up all night. The girl in front of her was prettier than her. One had to know that the reason she was able to reach this step was because of her one-in-a-million looks. She had always been proud of her looks, but when she saw Mu Yueyao, she suddenly felt ashamed of her own inferiority. In other words, if she had such a beautiful face, why would she want to work as a paparazzi? The girl was surprised and suspicious, but Mu Yueyao turned her head to Jing Yang and asked with the aura of a main wife, "Jing Yang, who is she?" Jing Yang retorted coldly, "What does it have to do with you? Is she your date?" Mu Yueyao went straight to the point. Jing Yang stared at her silently for a moment. Then he suddenly smirked and said, "She's my date." "Date?" Mu Yueyao's lips twitched violently. "What date? You don't have to ask about that." Just as he finished speaking, the elevator happened to reach the first floor and opened with a ding. Chapter 163. Jing Yang did not look at Mu Yueyao again. Holding the girl's hand, he slowly left the elevator with a few managers and assistants. Mu Yueyao lowered her head and did not look at his back. She stubbornly turned her face away and allowed the elevator door to slowly close. The elevator door closed again. Mu Yueyao did not have a hotel card, so she did not know which floor the elevator would stop at. When the elevator door opened again, a couple holding hands walked in. Seeing that there was someone else in the elevator, the couple, who were originally entangled with each other, was startled and restrained themselves a little. However, when they entered the elevator and saw Mu Yueyao with her head lowered, their actions became unrestrained again. Standing in the elevator, the two began to hug each other intimately. They were glued to each other like glue, hating that they had to separate. Through the reflection of the elevator door, Mu Yueyao saw the two stuck together. For some reason, The scene of Jingyang and that girl holding hands intimately flashed before her eyes. Her heart instantly sank. Woo woo woo. Mu Yueyao's heart felt as if it was being wrenched. She felt so silly. Since young Mu Yaja and Yun Shirshir had doted on her. In addition, her two elder brothers, Mu Yichen and Yun Tianyu, had doted on her all the way. No one had ever treated her like this. She admitted that she was partly responsible for that matter. But, did she not even have the right to atone for her sins in his eyes? Was he taking revenge on her? Or did he purely like that girl? No matter which answer it was, Mu Yueyao could not bear to see it. Mu Yueyao's heart sank fiercely. She hugged her knees and squatted on the floor. All of a sudden, she did not even have the strength to cry. The couple at the side was shocked when they heard her suddenly cry. The girl in front of them suddenly lost control of her emotions, causing them to lose interest in being intimate with her. The girl among the couple walked to Mu Yueyao's side, bent down gently and asked in Cantonese, "Miss, what's wrong? Are you feeling unwell?" Mu Yueyao only cried and did not respond to her. The girl was kind and patiently asked, "Which floor are you staying on? Are you from Hong Kong? Or are you here for a vacation? Do you have any companions? What happened?" When Mu Yueyao heard the girl's impatient voice, she felt that the world was getting darker and darker. She wished she could bury her head in her arms, but at the same time, she wished she could drown herself in the universe. It would be best if no one could find her. She felt that she was really stupid. For the sake of her sweetheart, she had followed him all the way to Hong Kong, but she had never expected to be humiliated like this. His mood was so low that it couldn't get any lower. The girl stood up in a daze. She glanced at her boyfriend and sighed helplessly. Chu and I isn't even willing to tell. She screamed so miserably. What a sinister technique. Could it be, because she was heartbroken? The boy shook his head and replied in Cantonese, "You don't need to control him. Just go to the lobby manager." When the elevator reached the first floor, the couple walked out. The girl wanted to help Mu Yueyao up, but seeing that she didn't even have the strength to stand up, she simply squatted beside her and accompanied her. The boy hurriedly went to find the lobby manager. Not long after, the boy rushed over with the lobby manager. When he saw Mu Yueyao, the lobby manager frowned slightly and suddenly asked tentatively, "Miss Yueyao?" Mu Yueyao still didn't move. She only buried her head, as if she couldn't hear anything. Chapter 164. Just as everyone was at a loss, Mu Yueyao suddenly buried her face in her arms and muttered painfully, "I thought everything would pass." "What do you mean?" No one knew what she was muttering about. Mu Yueyao suddenly lost control and said, "If only I was the one who died back then." She covered her ears and closed her eyes. Suddenly, she felt as if she could see Jing Yang's soulless back outside the corridor of the hospital. People were coming and going. In the operating theater, doctors and nurses rushed in one after another, looking anxious. Jing Yang's face was pale as he stared at her angrily and suspiciously. Mu Yueyao looked at her hands again, and suddenly realized that her hands were covered in bloodstains. The person lying in the operating theater was his closest relative, his mother. Because of her, it was all because of her that the mother and son were separated forever. Jing Yang dashed over and grabbed her by the shoulders. His eyes were bloodshot. "Mu Yueyao, what do you want?" The nightmare repeated itself. Mu Yueyao was so shocked that she broke out in cold sweat. She choked and said, "I didn't want to. I'd rather the person lying in there was me." "Then why don't you die?" Jing Yang lost control and roared at her. Mu Yueyao was so frightened that she curled up into a ball. She leaned against the wall and slid down slowly. "If anything happens to my mother, I'll hate you forever." With that, Jing Yang turned around and left. At that time, she did not even have the courage to look at him. "I'd rather die. I was wrong, I know I was wrong." Mu Yueyao covered her ears as if she was hallucinating. In the midst of the heavy traffic, she was pushed hard and felt the world spinning. She propped herself up again and looked back. However, all she heard was the screams of countless passers-by. Oh my God! A big truck ran over a living person. It ran over her body. It's definitely useless. Oh my God, there's blood everywhere. It's so scary. Quick, call the police and the ambulance. Mu Yueyao got up from the ground in a daze and staggered to stabilize her center of gravity. However, She saw that the scene not far away was already surrounded by people. Many girls screamed in fear. Order was once in chaos. There were people around her constantly asking about her well-being, but she couldn't hear anything clearly. The traffic police came quickly. She had just passed through the crowd when the police came to pull up the cordon. The driver stood by the side, looking at the people on the ground and sighing. Yueyao finally pushed the crowd aside, but she saw a scene that she would never forget in her life. The woman was crushed by the huge wheels of the truck. Half of her body was exposed as she lay on her back, blood foaming at the corner of her mouth. Help! Help! Mu Yueyao finally reacted and screamed in panic. Help! Help! Is the ambulance here? She only had one thought at that time, and that was to lift the car and drag out the person under the wheels. Therefore, she rushed forward without a care for her own safety and hugged the huge tire of the truck with both hands. The traffic police on the side immediately pulled her back. Save them! Save them! Mu Yueyao screamed at the top of her lungs. Save my mom! She's my mom! Save! Save my mom! Mother Jing's gentle words seemed to echo in her ears. You like Yang Yang? When you grow up, marry Yang Yang, okay? Okay. That's great. Then from now on, you'll call me mom like Jing Yang? Chapter 165. She felt like she was drowning in a sea of darkness. When Mu Yueyao woke up, she realized that she was lying on a bed. When she came back to her senses and sat up on the bed, she suddenly realized that she was in a ward. A ward. Mu Yueyao held her forehead. She had completely lost her memory of what had happened before she came to the ward. She didn't know what had happened. She couldn't remember what had happened at all. You're awake. A stern and familiar voice came from the side. Mu Yueyao looked in the direction of the voice and saw Mu Yichen sitting by the bed. He was dressed in a well-ironed suit and his back was as straight as it could be. She didn't know why, but no matter what he was wearing, he gave off the impression that he was dressed in military attire. Mu Yueyao was stunned. Brother, yeah. Mu Yichen snorted coldly and didn't say a word. He frowned and adjusted his posture. He sneered expressionlessly. You came to Hong Kong without your family's permission, and went through all sorts of trouble. Do you want to go to heaven? No. I didn't. Mu Yichen suddenly leaned over and held her chin. His tone was stiff as he said, Look at you now. You're so haggard. How did you get yourself into this state? Mu Yueyao slapped his hand away gloomily. She turned around and looked at the television. Through the reflection on the screen, she indeed saw her extremely haggard face. She couldn't recover from the setback. Mu Yichen couldn't bear to yell at her when he saw her pitiful look. He raised his eyebrows and asked, What's the matter? Why do you look so aggrieved? Brother. Mu Yueyao's voice trembled like a little lamb, and she looked even more pitiful. Why are you yelling at me? Mu Yichen touched the bridge of his nose. When did I yell at you? You were yelling at me. Mu Yueyao looked like she was about to cry. Look at your face. You look like you're going to eat me up. Eat me up. So exaggerated? Mu Yichen nervously turned around. Behind Yueyao's back, he secretly took out his phone to take a picture of himself and touched his face. Oh. He didn't seem to be very fierce. However, his expression seemed to be a little more serious. It seemed so. Mu Yichen cleared his throat and looked at Yueyao. She pursed her lips and looked like she wanted to cry, but no tears came out. All right. His tone became a little warmer. He deliberately made it soft, as if he was afraid of scaring her to tears. However, it was not hard to hear that he was angry. Did you come to Hong Kong to look for Jingyan? Looks like they're arguing again. No. Mu Yichen did not believe it. However, the truth was that she and Jingyang did not even speak much this time. Ever since that incident, Jingyang's attitude towards her had become very cold. She knew very well that he hated her because of that incident. However, she thought that besides hatred, he should at least show some concern and care for her, right? This time, her heart was really hurt badly. In the Mu family, she had always been the high and mighty princess. She had never suffered such humiliation. These few days in Hong Kong, she could no longer maintain her composure in the face of his indifference. It didn't matter how he humiliated her. However, when she saw that woman appear beside him, all of her psychological defenses crumbled completely. Chapter 166. All right. Muichen's heart ached too. He had always doted on his younger sister, but now that she was being bullied outside, his heart ached terribly. Still, he was exasperated at her failure to live up to his expectations. Why did he keep an eye on that B******? His sister was the Mu family's beloved princess. There was a long line of men courting her, so why should she be bullied by that B******? Muichen was furious. He could not wait to chop that B**** into pieces. However, when he looked at Yueyao's aggrieved face, which was about to crumple into a ball, he tenderly reached out and pulled her into his embrace. Oh, don't cry anymore. As if coaxing a baby in swaddling clothes, he gently patted Yueyao's back and coaxed, "All right, don't cry anymore, okay?" Yueyao was furious. On one hand, her face was flushed red, and on the other, she was speechless. "Brother, I'm not a child anymore. Besides, I'm not crying. In my eyes, you'll always be a child. You'll never grow up." As Muichen spoke, he tucked her hair behind her ear. His voice was as mellow as red wine. It was mellow and mellow, yet it made one's heart feel inexplicably at ease. When she was young, no one dared to bully her because of her two brothers' protection. Due to her brother's love, she became very arrogant and willful. Mu Yaja and Yun Shirshir even despised Muichen and Yun Tianyu for spoiling her too much. What did Muichen say? He righteously retorted, "She's my sister and I dote on her. Who dares to have an opinion?" At that time, Muichen was young and frivolous. Even Mu Yaja could not do anything about his son. Yun Tianyu's attitude toward Yueyao was more subdued. However, whoever made Yueyao cry, although Yun Tianyu's methods were not as harsh as Muichen's, the consequences were always the worst. As a result, Yueyao became more and more arrogant. Yueyao also knew that her personality had been spoiled by her two brothers. She had also thought about changing it, and had put it into action. She was much more mature than before. But even so, these two clown brothers still couldn't bear to see her suffer any grievances. Yueyao blushed a little. She was actually a little shy, but when she heard Muichen's comforting voice, for some reason, tears welled up in her eyes. She rubbed the corners of her eyes and felt like crying. "Brother, he really doesn't want me anymore," Muichen snorted. "It's not that he doesn't want you, it's you who doesn't want him. He's not good enough for you, eh?" Upon hearing Muichen's words, Yueyao could no longer hold it in. Her tears finally soaked Muichen's clothes. Muichen's heart ached even more. He felt that the hot tears were about to flow into his heart. "No matter what, you'll always be the most precious in your brother's heart." "Brother." Mu Yueyao dropped all her defenses and hugged him tightly. She did not want her tears to be exposed under the sun. She would rather bury these tears in her brother's chest. Muichen did not say anything. He raised his hand and gently stroked her back as a form of consolation. His heart, however, felt as if it was torn apart. He hugged Yueyao's head into the crook of his neck. When he looked up again, his gaze was as cold as a knife. This B*****. Over and over again he had made his sister sad and heartbroken. It was fine if it was just brushes before. This time he would not tolerate it. Chapter 167. TV Station Interview Room. When Jingyang returned to the dressing room after finishing the program, it was already 1 o'clock in the morning. The program was a recorded broadcast. The Hong Kong TVB variety program always revolved around gossip. Jingyang endured and ended the interview patiently. He was exhausted. As soon as he returned to the dressing room, he collapsed on the sofa and did not want to move anymore. Tired. Exhausted. At this moment, his mind was filled with Mu Yueyao's disappointed face. According to the hotel manager, a girl fainted in the elevator yesterday. She was rushed to the hospital and there was no news of her since then. He suspected that it was Mu Yueyao, because her name could no longer be found in the hotel's guest information. She had already checked out of the hotel. What happened? She fainted? What happened? Countless questions filled his head and he had a splitting headache. Yesterday, he agreed to a dinner party and the investor asked this girl to accompany him. He did not expect to bump into her in the elevator. Jingyang did not pay attention to her, but he did not expect that something would happen not long after he left. "Jingyang, are you tired? Do you want to drink some coffee?" Beside him, his assistant kindly served him a freshly brewed coffee. When Jing Yong smelled the bitter taste of the instant coffee, he could not help but want to vomit. He covered his mouth and waved his hand. The assistant immediately understood and left with the coffee. She knew that Jing Yang's mood was not very good these 2 days. No. It should be said that since he stepped into the entertainment industry, he had never shown a real smile. There was once a program that asked him why he wanted to enter the entertainment industry. He was a top economics student at a 985 university. However, he did not choose to pursue a postgraduate study in economics. Instead, he chose to enter the entertainment industry. Although Jing Yang's foreign trade conditions were good, there were better choices for him other than the entertainment industry. However, Jing Yang said that he entered the entertainment industry to repay his debts. He and his mother owed a huge debt, as high as 100 million. He had to repay this debt. This statement shocked the entertainment industry and fans. It even topped the entertainment industry's trending searches. Jing Yang had a debt of over 100 million. Some smart fans looked up Jing Yang's information and did not find any debt background. There was no record of him being executed. A young man who did not gamble, did not have any bad habits, and came from a clean family background. Where did this debt of over 100 million come from? No one knew. After that, there were also people who asked Jing Yang out of curiosity to verify the debt. However, Jing Yang avoided answering them and only said that he would retire from the entertainment industry after he earned 100 million. Therefore, Jing Yang's fans were in a dilemma. They wanted to spend money on him, but they were also worried that if they spent too much money, their idol would leave the industry after earning 100 million yuan. But there were also some media outlets that said that this was all a publicity stunt. However, Mu Yueyao knew where the 100 million debt Jing Yang was talking about came from. Jing Yang collapsed on the sofa and let his body sink into it. Suddenly, there was a sound of footsteps outside the door. However, he remained unmoved until the door of the dressing room was forcefully pushed open with a bang. Everyone except Jing Yang looked at the door and saw a tall man with a domineering aura standing at the door. His eyes were cold. Everyone was so scared that they didn't even dare to breathe. Logically speaking, if someone suddenly broke into the dressing room backstage, the assistant would definitely rush forward to chase them out. Chapter 168. Logically speaking, if someone were to barge into the dressing room backstage, the assistant would rush forward to chase them out. However, when Mu Yichen stood in front of them, no one dared to step forward due to his intimidating aura. Jing Yang raised his head to look at Mu Yichen. He, too, saw the pain and fury in his eyes. He knew who he was here for. When they were young, he had always been the elder brother whom he respected the most. He and Yin Tianyu were also the ones who took care of him the most. Now, however, he could only see disappointment and anger in the man's eyes. Jing Yang, I'm warning you. From now on, keep your distance from my sister. Don't go near her. Do you hear me? Jing Yang did not look surprised when he heard this. He only said blandly, you should be saying this to Yueyao, right? Who's the one pestering who? She's the one who keeps disturbing my work and affecting my life. Yet you want me to keep my distance from her? I've already done enough to keep my distance. Mu Yichen was especially furious when he heard this. He tightened his grip on Jing Yang. His fingers turned white from exerting so much force that he gritted his teeth. Is it so difficult for you to admit that you like Yueyao? Can't the two of you get along well? Why are you still angry? It's been so many years, shouldn't it be over by now? Jing Yang raised his brows coldly, but did not deny it. Instead he smirked. So what if I love her? Mu Yichen was stunned. What was this? What do you mean by, so what if I love her? I hate her. Jing Yang's expression was frosty. Mu Yichen did not know what to do with his icy expression. He had never seen Jing Yang with such a cold expression before. Hate her? Do you know how much I hate her? Jing Yang retorted. If it were you, what would you do? You've lost your loved one. Can you still accept her? It's not her fault. That's because she's your sister. Jing Yang's words left Mu Yichen speechless. She's your younger sister. She can be forgiven even if she has done something wrong. Mu Yichen could not help but ask, what about you? Don't you love her? That matter wasn't entirely her fault. You're just passing on the pain of losing a loved one to Yueyao. Don't mention that name to me again. Jing Yang's face was filled with disgust. He was extremely sensitive to this name. He frowned and turned his face away, not wanting to listen anymore. However, Mui Chen did not take Jing Yang's rebellion seriously and insisted on bringing it up. Aren't you afraid of losing Yueyao? For the current me, there's nothing I'm afraid of losing. Jing Yang's voice remained calm. I just don't want to see her again. Before Mui Chen could say anything, Yueyao's melancholic voice came from behind him. Brother, there's nothing more to say. He was stunned and turned around in shock. He saw Yueyao standing at the door, her body swaying slightly as if she could not stand straight. However, she was still trying her best to suppress some of her emotions and put on an extremely perfunctory smile. Jing Yang, you have to remember what you said. I'll pay back what I owe you, but you have to pay back what you owe me. Jing Yang was stunned as well. He did not expect Yueyao to be standing outside the door and hear the entire conversation between him and Mui Chen. Chapter 169. Jing Yang, remember what you've said. I'll repay what I owe you, but you'll have to pay back what you owe me too. Jing Yang was stunned too. He did not expect that Mui Chen and Yueyao would be standing outside the door and overhear their conversation. For a moment he could not recover from his shock. Yueyao, who was standing before him, looked too haggard. All this while, she had always been a beautiful and noble princess in front of everyone. Now, without makeup, she could not hide her sickly haggardness. He did not know that she had not eaten or drunk for 2 whole days. Her eyes were red as if she had cried. For a moment his heart ached. Mui Chen held his forehead helplessly. Initially, he only wanted to come alone and did not want her to come along. However, she stubbornly insisted on coming along. He had no choice but to let her wait outside the door. He did not expect Jing Yang to say such heartless words. Jing Yang glared at Yueyao silently. Yueyao did not say a word. She looked back at him with an indescribable disappointment in her eyes. She expected to hear many cruel words from him, but she did not expect him to be so eager to draw a line between them. She thought about the girl who had been beside him last night, holding his arm so intimately. They were together the whole night, right? What exactly happened between the two of them? Yueyao did not dare to think about it. Let's end it here. Other than settling accounts, we don't owe each other anything. As Yueyao said this, she suddenly raised her hand and casually took off a ring on her ring finger. She threw it on the floor. It was a rose gold ring. She bought it at a store and it was not expensive. When they were young, she often stuck to Jing Yang. The two could be considered childhood sweethearts. Whether it was the Mu family or Jing Yang's mother, they were sure that they would get married when they grew up. At that time, the two little guys were very close. Other than Mu Yichen and Yin Tianyu, it seemed that only Jing Yang could tolerate her princess-like temper. During Christmas in junior high school, Jing Yang used the money he earned from his part-time job to buy a rose gold ring and made a promise with her. He said to her, Yueyao, this is my engagement ring for you. When I grow up, I'll marry you and make you Mrs. Jing, okay? At that time, there was no such thing as puppy love between the two of them. It was just that both of them had too many fantasies about their future. Yueyao had been doted on since she was a child. She was the youngest and only daughter of the Mu family. She was the princess. Jing Yang didn't come from a rich family like her, but the Mu family took special care of him. Jing Yang's mother did not remarry. It was not easy for her to raise Jing Yang alone. Originally, she had planned to give birth to the child and return to the countryside to develop. The cost of living in the capital was too high, and it was hard to get by. But how could Mu Yueyao bear to let Jing Yang leave? Hence, Yin Shishir offered to cover Jing Yang's living expenses and school fees. Only then did Jing Yang and his mother officially take root in the capital. However, all these beautiful things were completely shattered because of an accident. After that incident, Jing Yang not only felt love for Mu Yueyao, but also hatred. Originally, this accident should not have happened. For the first time in his life, he hated her willfulness. Watch first Zue new chapter section. Please go to Hall of Visitors, mobile address. Chapter 170. For the first time in his life, he hated her stubbornness. However, All this hatred was suddenly thrown into chaos when the rose gold ring fell to the ground. The ring had entered his line of sight without warning and made him realize that to her, this ring was so cheap. No matter how many years had passed, she had always worn it on her finger. But now, she had taken it off and thrown it in front of him. Mu Yueyao's face was expressionless and he couldn't tell what it was. She smiled sadly, and just when he thought she was about to cry, she said lightly, "Let's end it here." "Let's end it here." Mu Yueyao smiled coldly and said, "I should give up too. In the future, as you wish, I won't pester you anymore." As she said this, she walked over and held Mu Yichen's hand. She forced a smile and said, "Brother, let's go." Mu Yichen looked at Jing Yang and then turned back to look at Yueyao. He couldn't bear it and asked, "Have you made up your mind?" "Yeah. I've let go. Why do I have to do such stupid things?" Mu Yueyao took a deep breath as if she had finally let go of something that had been weighing on her mind. She smiled and said, "It's time for me to start my own life, isn't it?" Mu Yichen's lips twitched, but he didn't say anything. He only sighed and hugged her lovingly before turning to leave. It was only after the siblings left that Jing Yang seemed to come back to his senses. He walked over and bent down gently to pick up the rose gold ring. He wiped the ring clean with his cufflinks and wrapped it in his palm. His assistant and manager looked at each other and frowned, but they didn't say anything. Beijing Moon Palace, a top-class private clubhouse. In a luxurious private room, Mu Yueyao leaned lazily on the sofa. She was wearing a black mid-length dress that hugged her exquisite figure. Her hair was slightly messy and she had only put on some foundation makeup. However, at that moment, the music was loud and the lights were dim. As the light shone on her exquisite features, she looked a little dispirited and lazy. On the table, the goblets had toppled over, and the beer bottles were all over the place. Several handsome and beautiful male models were standing on the small stage, holding microphones and trying their best to show off their voices. These models were all the top male models of the Moon Palace. Whether it was in terms of figure or appearance, they were all ranked in the top 5. After returning from Hong Kong, Yueyao hid from everyone and secretly took root in the Moon Palace. The Moon Palace was a high-class clubhouse that combined entertainment and hotel. It had a bar, a K-room and a bedroom. She turned off her phone and hid her whereabouts from everyone. She played in the Moon Palace every day. When they were tired from singing, they would drink. When they were drunk, they would return to the hotel to rest. When she woke up, she did not have time to eat and continued to drink in the private room. She felt lonely drinking alone, so she spent a lot of money. A few male models rushed into the private room to drink with her, get drunk with her, go crazy with her, and play with her. This kind of feeling was really good. It was carefree, crazy, and incisive. When he was drunk, he felt as if the whole world was spinning, as if he was floating in the clouds. At that time, even if the sky fell, it had nothing to do with her. She didn't need to think about the person in her heart. She just needed to find her own happiness. But, even if she was drunk, she still missed him. His face appeared in her mind. Before she realized it, her face was already covered in tears. Chapter 171. At the Mu residence. Mu Yichen tried calling Yueyao's cell phone for the 154th time, but it was turned off. This time he was really furious. What was going on? Could it be that her cell phone ran out of battery? No matter how many times he called, Yueyao did not pick up. After returning from Hong Kong, it was as if she had disappeared from the face of the earth. He did not know where she went. She was unreasonable. Although he knew that nothing would happen to Yueyao, he was still worried. Just as Mu Yichen was about to explode with anger, Mu Yaja suddenly returned. When he opened the door, he saw Mu Yichen holding his cell phone. His face was as black as a sheet of paper. He curled his lips and asked calmly, "Is little sister not back yet?" Yeah. Mu Yichen was obviously guilty. He felt that it was his fault for not taking good care of Yueyao. Mu Yaja raised his wrist and looked at his watch. Yueyao had been missing for 3 days and 3 nights. Even if she was fooling around, she should have had enough. "Did you look for her?" Mu Yichen nodded helplessly. "I did. Did you tell her second brother?" "No. I didn't. I didn't dare to tell you. You should still be in the hospital with Natalia. He didn't know about this." Mu Yichen paused and suddenly sighed helplessly. I thought that although she was naughty and unreasonable, she shouldn't have gone overboard, right? She disappeared the moment she came back from Hong Kong. I don't know where she went. As Mui-chan spoke, he became angry again. Other than anger, he was more worried. Why are you so anxious? Muyaja, however, did not show much anxiety. Clearly, he should be the one worrying the most at this moment. Yet he appeared calm and composed. Mui-chan was even more surprised. Dad, aren't you anxious? Why are you in a hurry? Muyaja asked casually. Has your precious little sister been this willful since she was young? But there must be a limit to being willful. Mui-chan crossed his arms in anger. This is too much. She doesn't know how to go home every day. What exactly does she want? Muyaja raised his eyebrows slightly and said coldly, in the end, it's all because you spoiled her. Mui-chan was speechless. He glanced coldly at Muyaja and quietly complained. Daddy, you seem to be the one who dotes on little sister the most and spoils her the most. Yes. Muyaja did not deny it at all. I pampered her. Do you have a problem with that? Mui-chan suffered another setback. He did not dare to contradict Muyaja. Although he had already grown up, Muyaja was still an extremely revered father figure to him. Mui-chan sighed. Muyaja frowned and said, Don't worry about this. Go and rest early. Then what about little sister? I will find her. Mui-chan frowned and hesitated for a while. In the end, he could not help but say, Daddy, if you find little sister and she is in a bad mood these few days, please don't take it to heart if she says a few words to contradict you. Muyaja did not say anything and only said, Go to bed early. Oh. Mui-chan returned to his room. This was because he knew that Muyaja must have made a decision by saying so. Since they were young, Yueao had run away from home many times in a fit of anger. Every time, only Muyaja could find her. Moreover, the two of them had a tacit understanding of where she was hiding. Chapter 172. However, no matter where Yueao hid, she would not tell anyone. It was as if the father and daughter were telepathic. How enviable. When Mui-chan returned to his room, Muyaja went out of the house and went to the garage. When he saw that Yueao's Maserati was still at home, he smiled in satisfaction. The car was parked at home. This was a secret signal between the father and daughter. It meant that she was at the Moon Palace. The Moon Palace. From the name, it was obvious who had invested in this top-notch private club in Beijing. Originally, the Mu family had a few private clubs, but they were usually places for business. The Moon Palace was built because Yueao was obsessed with singing when she was in junior high. Therefore, he was worried that his daughter would not have a good singing environment, so he built the Moon Palace. There was a princess box in the Moon Palace. The sound system inside was at least $1 million. Just the sound system alone was worth a few $1,000,000. The duplex box was more than 700 square meters. They had hired the top international choreographer to design an especially beautiful stage. It could accommodate hundreds of people and even hold a small fan club. When she was young, Yueao was definitely the envy of all the students in school. At her birthday party, all the celebrities she liked would appear at her birthday party. There were even celebrities who were proud to attend her birthday party. The scariest thing was that the value of anyone who could attend her birthday party would definitely double. She was at the Moon Palace? Muyaja started the car almost without hesitation and sped toward the Moon Palace. When he arrived at the Moon Palace, the hall was brightly lit. A row of people was in front of the switchboard. They were at a loss. When they saw Muyaja, it was as if they had seen their savior. Chairman Mu is here. A group of waiters came over with bitter faces. They surrounded Muyaja and complained at the same time. Chairman Mu, young miss doesn't let us into the box. She asked for a lot of alcohol. We don't dare to refuse. Previously, the two managers advised her not to drink. They even lost their jobs. This is not important. You should go and take a look. If she continues drinking like this, her body will collapse sooner or later. Muyaja frowned, but his expression was still calm. He looked around and raised a finger to signal them to be quiet. The group immediately fell silent. I'll go look for her. You guys stay outside and don't come in. Everyone hurriedly nodded. Several managers escorted Muyaja to the door of the room. Although the room was soundproof, they could still hear Muyaja singing at the top of his lungs. Muyaja frowned slightly and sighed helplessly. He reached out and pushed the door open. On the stage, the lights were dazzling. Yueao stood on the stage, surrounded by lights, holding a microphone and humming drunkenly. Surrounded by the stage lights, she couldn't see who had walked in. As soon as Muyaja walked in, the male models accompanying Yueao immediately bowed and retreated. He didn't disturb her immediately. Instead, he sat on the sofa and silently watched his daughter go crazy. When he looked at the song ordering machine, he was shocked. More than 200 songs. Sad people don't listen to slow songs. Goodbye. Exclusive breakup. The last snow. I just want to say goodbye. A typical lovelorn song. Muyaja felt sorry for her and wanted to laugh at the same time. This little brat had lit up all the heartbroken love songs. Yueao was still singing. Give up, don't struggle needlessly, forget him. Love is not so complicated. Chapter 173. Halfway through her sobs, she couldn't continue singing anymore. Yueao fell onto the stage, unable to recover from the setback. Seeing that she had stopped singing, Muyaja reached out and poked the music machine to stop the music. The deafening music in the huge private room stopped abruptly. As Yueao had been drinking, her reaction was a little sluggish. It took her a while to realize that someone had touched the music machine. She looked in the direction of the music machine. Although her mind was a little hazy, she could still recognize the man sitting on the sofa. She suddenly felt guilty and aggrieved. Tears streamed down her cheeks. Daddy. No matter how angry he was, he could not bring himself to be angry at her soft and coquettish call. He sighed and gently patted the area beside him. Frowning slightly, he said, "Come here, the floor is cold." Yueao listened to him and obediently got up from the floor. She walked over to him, swaying step by step. She was clearly walking towards his side, but when she reached his side, her legs went soft and she collapsed on his body. Muyaja carried her lovingly in his arms and gently rubbed her tear-stained eyes. There was a rare tenderness in his eyes. It was no wonder that Yin Shirshir was always jealous. Before Yueao was born, she had already mentally prepared herself that if she gave birth to a daughter, this daughter would definitely compete with her for favor. But she hadn't expected that Muyaja would be so biased. After being married for decades, although the husband and wife were glued to each other like glue, they were still incomparably loving. They weren't like an old couple who had been married for many years, treating each other with respect and retaining the feelings of their youth. But as his daughter gradually grew up, Muyaja placed a lot of focus on Yueao. Yin Shirshir had repeatedly emphasized that a grown daughter couldn't be kept at home. No matter what, his daughter had to get married. However, Muyaja said that it was because his daughter was going to get married sooner or later that he had to dote on her. He doted on her so much that in the future, if his future son-in-law didn't dote on his daughter as much as he did, he wouldn't bear to hand his daughter over to someone else. Yin Shirshir was already considered a Buddhist. But there were many times when she would still be a little jealous of her daughter. This was especially so when she saw Muyaja looking at her daughter dotingly. Her heart ached and she could not help but feel envious. Yueao took the opportunity to lean her head on his shoulder and didn't say a word. When Muyaja saw this, he frowned and laughed. "What's the matter? Who made my little princess angry this time?" He was pretending that he didn't know what had happened between her and Jingyang. Yueao wasn't willing to tell him either. How could she possibly complain to Muyaja? Even if she had been wrong, she wouldn't tell him. She didn't dare to imagine what would happen if he got angry with Jingyang because of this. If Muyaja got angry and really wanted to deal with Jingyang, the entire entertainment industry would be shaken. This was between her and Jingyang. She didn't want to implicate anyone else. Moreover, she had drunk alcohol and was in a daze. Perhaps she was tired of crying and was tired of it. Now that her tears had dried, she quietly snuggled up in Muyaja's arms. Finally, she felt that the whole world had quieted down. She was so tired from crying that she felt like her head was swollen and hot. She didn't say anything and Muyaja didn't force her either. Chapter 174. Muyaja didn't force her. She didn't know why, but Yueao felt her heart calm down when she was by his side. She didn't say anything and didn't know if she was crying. She just wrapped her arms around his waist, sobbing and feeling wronged. Mu Yaja gently scratched the bridge of her nose and asked gently, "Have you had enough fun outside?" "I'm done." "Then come home with Daddy?" When Yueyao heard this, she shook her head vigorously. Mu Yaja couldn't help but laugh. "What's the matter? Is there a fierce tiger at home? Don't want to go back?" "Yes," Yueyao said seriously. "I'm afraid that Mommy will eat me up." Mu Yaja said, "Mommy doesn't know about you playing outside." Why? That clown brother of yours kept it a secret for you. He said that you went on vacation. Then how did you find out?" Mu Yaja raised his eyebrows and reminded her helplessly. "I saw that he was so anxious these past few days. Although he pretended to be calm in front of your mommy, how could he hide it from me? When I saw that your car was parked in the basement, it meant that you went to the Moon Palace." Realization dawned on Yueyao. She lowered her head guiltily and admitted her mistake sadly. "I'm sorry to have made Daddy worry again. If it's possible." Mu Yaja hugged her tightly. "Daddy wants to worry about you for the rest of his life." When Yueyao heard this, her heart trembled violently. She didn't know why, but she felt a little sad. She didn't dare to look up at him. After the alcohol had subsided, she suddenly felt that her behavior these past few days had been a little too willful. As Mu Yaja hugged Yueyao, he couldn't help but feel emotional. This daughter of his meant something different to him. This was the child that he had nurtured with Yin Shirshir for the past 10 months. Since the day Yin Shirshir was pregnant, he had been taking care of her carefully. At the same time, he fantasized about whether the Xiaobao in her stomach was a son or a daughter. He sighed with emotion as he held up Yueyao's hand. Her fingers were slender, fair and slender. Such a beautiful hand also proved that his beloved daughter had finally grown up. The princess in the castle, who was ignorant of worldly affairs, finally had the 7 emotions and 6 desires. She was no longer dejected over matters of the heart. She still remembered that when she was just born, her small and delicate body was just enough for her to support with her 2 hands. Now, she had already grown to be so slender and elegant. Time really passed too quickly. It was like quicksand on one's fingertips, impossible to grasp. Mu Yaja gently tucked her hair behind her ear and said gently, "You will always be Daddy's princess. If you are unhappy, of course Daddy will feel it." When Yueyao heard this, she didn't know why, but her tears, which had already subsided, suddenly overflowed again. Her eyes were clearly hurting from crying, but she couldn't stop the tears from gushing out. She hugged Mu Yaja's shoulder and choked with sobs. "I won't marry in the future. I want to be with Daddy and Mommy for the rest of my life." When Mu Yaja heard this, he almost blurted out, "Okay." His daughter said that she didn't want to marry. This was what he hoped for the most. It was said that there were only 2 happy days when a son was born. The first was the day he was born, and the second was the day he married his wife. It was also said that from the day a daughter was born until the day she got married, it was blissful. The rest was melancholy. However, he clearly knew that her words were just a spur of the moment. He was just a passerby in her life. Sooner or later, there would be a man who would hold her hand. Chapter 175. Sooner or later, there would be a man who would hold her hand, and no matter how reluctant he would still have to entrust her hand to that man. But no matter what kind of man it was, as long as he bullied her and made her cry, even if it was her own wishful thinking, she couldn't let him know. Because she would forgive that man, but he wouldn't. However, Mu Yaja still felt warm inside when he heard her words. Why else would they say that a daughter was her father's lover in his previous life? It was so heartwarming. "Daddy, let's not go home tonight, okay?" Mu Yueyao was a little worried. After all, she reeked of alcohol. Although Mu Yaja was protecting her, if Yin Shirshir caught wind of it, she wouldn't be able to escape a scolding. She didn't want to make Yin Shirshir angry. Because, no matter how protective Mu Yaja was of her, he was her father and also her husband. The only request he had for his daughter was to try her best not to make her mommy angry. Yin Shirshir was such a reasonable person that she wouldn't be unreasonable. If Yin Shirshir found out that she had gone to drink again, she would definitely be angry. Mu Yaja also guessed what she was thinking. "What's the matter? Are you afraid that Mommy will get angry when she smells the alcohol on you?" "I promised Mommy that I wouldn't drink." Mu Yueyao sighed and sobered up a little. When she thought of Yin Shirshir's gloomy face, She actually started to feel a little scared. Muyaja flicked her head gently. Why did you still drink when you knew? Muyaja asked again. Have you thought it through? What? You've drunk and you've had enough trouble these few days. Have you thought it through? Muyueyao lifted her head and looked into Muyaja's eyes in a daze. Suddenly, she took a deep breath and her voice trembled a little. You haven't thought it through? I've thought it through. Muyueyao finally said seriously, I've decided to let him go. For some reason, looking at Yueyao's casual expression, Muyaja's heart ached even more. He understood that she had not let go at all. Her face was full of reluctance and heartache, but she had decided to let go. It was probably because she was disheartened and did not want to wait any longer. I know that there are some things that can no longer be undone, but I don't want him to trample on my pride anymore. Muyaja said indifferently, It's good that you've thought it through. Daddy, I really envy you and Mommy. Muyueyao sighed from the bottom of her heart. Your relationship with Mommy is really good. I rarely see the two of you fighting. When I was young, I thought that if there was a man who could dote on me like how Daddy dotes on Mommy, I would be willing to do anything for him. Impossible. Why? Muyueyao was a little puzzled and retorted. Daddy is not the only good man in this world. Muyaja smiled. But in this world, there is only one Daddy. While Yueyao was in a daze, Muyaja continued. In this world, there is only one Mommy. The relationship between your Mommy and I can't be replicated. Can't be replicated. It's the same for relationships. You can't use your request for Daddy to ask another man. Muyaja's words had a deeper meaning. Yueyao felt that his words were a little complicated and difficult to understand. Daddy, what do you mean? It's fine if you don't understand. Muyaja gently stroked her hair on her forehead. Go back to the room upstairs and sleep for the night. Come home with me tomorrow. Chapter 176. Yueyao was so tired that she was barely conscious. She leaned on Muyaja's shoulder and nodded to herself. It was obvious that she was exhausted. Muyaja carried her, his heart aching. He walked out of the door and headed upstairs. The 5th floor and above were all private rooms. Muyaja had specially prepared a princess suite for Yueyao. No one else was allowed to use this room under any circumstances. However, the room would be meticulously cleaned every 2 days to keep it clean and tidy. After Muyaja carried Yueyao into the room, she was already sleeping soundly in his arms. A certain man frowned in disdain. He despised the fact that his daughter reeked of alcohol, and it was inconvenient for him to help her wash up. It wasn't as if he couldn't get someone to serve her. However, seeing that she was sleeping so soundly, Muyaja couldn't bear to wake her up. Hence, he laid her flat on the bed and covered her with the blanket, allowing her to sleep soundly. The next day, when Yueyao woke up, it was already late in the morning. She opened her eyes and felt nauseous like a tidal wave. Yueyao kicked the blanket away weakly. Just as she turned over, she felt a tremor in her body as if something was tumbling violently. She opened her mouth and almost vomited on the carpet. However, a hand had already passed her the rubbish bin in time. After Yueyao finished vomiting, the foul smell from the rubbish bin made her almost unable to open her eyes. Are you done vomiting? A man's steady and powerful voice came from beside her. Yueyao woke up abruptly and turned her head in embarrassment. She saw Muyaja looking at her calmly. Daddy. Even though she had been vomiting like this for the past few days and had been drinking heavily, Muyaja suddenly felt embarrassed when he saw her vomiting in such a sorry state. Are you done vomiting? A little more. Muyaja didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He laughed and said, Brew a little more? As he spoke, he placed the rubbish bin at her door. He sat at the side and didn't say anything, just looking at her. Yueyao was embarrassed. She was disgusted by the smelly rubbish bin. She looked up. Muyaja thoughtfully handed her a glass of water. Yueyao took it obediently and gulped down a big mouthful. She rinsed her mouth and immediately vomited. Muyaja glanced at her and asked, Are you better? Much better. Do you want to take a shower or go straight home? Shower. She reeked of alcohol. She didn't notice it when she was drunk yesterday, but now that she was awake, she didn't feel well. Go take a shower then. I'll wait for you outside. Daddy. Yueyao was a little embarrassed and said, You won't scold me, right? Mu Yaja looked up at her. After a long while he said, if you walk out of this room today and continue living like yesterday, Daddy doesn't recommend scolding you until you wake up. Yueyao shuddered violently. Yin Shirshir had once told her that Mu Yaja was usually gentle to her, but when he got angry, he was 100 times scarier than her two brothers. Although she was spoiled and arrogant, she respected this father of hers very much. Of course, she had thought it through. She had been unable to recover from the setback for the past few days. Now that she had suffered and cried, she would look down on herself if she continued to give up on herself. It was just a man. Watch first Zue New Chapter 2 section. Please go to Hall Guest. Phone address. Chapter 177. Yueyao walked straight into the bathroom. Before this, Mu Yaja had already entered the bathroom and filled the bathtub with water. A rainbow-colored bath ball was placed beside it. Mu Yaja must have asked someone to prepare it. Yueyao was very touched. In the end, the one who doted on her was still her daddy. Yueyao put the bath ball into the bathtub. The small ball swayed in the water and then started to bubble. In the blink of an eye, it dragged a rainbow-colored tail, and the entire bathtub was filled with a fresh fragrance. After a short wait, she took off her clothes and lay in the bathtub. She closed her eyes in satisfaction. She loved bathing the most. When she was in the bathtub, she felt as if she had emptied her mind and would not think about anything else. But at this moment, she still thought about a lot of things. She thought about her own stupidity and foolishness. She thought about how she had been like a fool for so many years, chasing after the light but not being able to catch it. Mu Yueyao took a deep breath of the mist and almost choked. Then she let go of her hands and relaxed her body in an instant. But her eyes were still a little sore. She had let it go. Besides relief, there was also an inexplicable pain. If it was so easy to let it go, there would not be so much pain. Let it go then. Mu Yueyao cupped the water and gently covered her face. Let it go. Don't think about it anymore. With that, she immersed herself in the bathtub. Young miss, I'll put your clothes here. They have been washed and ironed for you. The room service staff gently placed a pile of soft clothes on the stool. The clothes she wore yesterday already reeked of alcohol and could not be worn again. Hence, Mu Yaja asked the hotel manager to personally choose a new set of clothes. After washing and ironing them carefully, they were sent over. Yueyao wrapped herself in a bathrobe and held up the clothes. She asked doubtfully, "Where's Daddy?" "Chairman Mu is waiting for you at the clubhouse." "Okay, you can go out then. I'm going to change." "Yes. Young miss, if you need anything else, please feel free to let me know." "Got it." After everyone left, Yueyao casually changed into a new set of clothes. She was very particular about what she wore. However, in the past few days after returning from Hong Kong, she had been singing, drinking, and living a life of luxury. Even she herself felt that she was neither a human nor a ghost. However, just like Mu Yaja said, when she walked into the bathroom and came out, everything would be clear. He had figured everything out. After Yueyao changed her clothes, she came to the clubhouse and saw Mu Yaja sitting on the sofa. There were several bosses drinking coffee in the clubhouse. When they saw Mu Yaja, they immediately went up to greet him. Mu Yaja looked indifferent. These men were begging and pleading for nothing more than that. Now that more than half of the Xingyu Financial Group's affairs had been handed over to Yun Tianyu, he could not be bothered to interfere. Thus he leisurely played Tai Chi with them. When he saw Yueyao, he immediately asked, "Are you done?" "Yes." Yueyao came to Mu Yaja's side and said to him, "Daddy, let's go home." When they heard that they were going home, the two men looked at each other. No matter how anxious they were, there was nothing they could do. They could only nod repeatedly and watch the father and daughter leave. Chapter 178. 5 months later. The official handover of the CEO position of Tianyu Entertainment under Xingyu Financial Group was completed. Mu Yueyao became the only female CEO since the establishment of Xingyu Financial Group. She was in charge of all the entertainment businesses under Xingyu. Actually, this handover ceremony was considered to be particularly long. Although Yin Tianyu had taken over most of Xingyu's affairs from Mu Yaja, it did not mean that Xingyu Financial Group was a family-run enterprise. With the Mu Group as a precedent, Mu Yaja hoped that Xingyu Financial Group could become a multinational corporation that would last for generations. Therefore, all the positions in the corporation were fair competition. Of course, as the precious daughter of the founder of Xingyu Financial Group, she still had some preferential treatment in the election. After Yueyao officially took over Tianyu Entertainment, she made 3 sweeping changes. First, she eradicated all the vermin left behind in history. Tianyu Entertainment's predecessor was Huanyu Entertainment. After Xingyu Financial Group acquired the Mu Group, they also acquired Huanyu Entertainment. This was not a benign cooperation. Back then, Mu Yaja had forced the merger. Therefore, some of the senior shareholders of Huanyu Corporation were somewhat conflicted. The outside world was not optimistic about this acquisition. They had a feeling that after Huanyu was acquired by Xingyu, it would definitely go downhill. Indeed, during the period of time after the acquisition, Huanyu had indeed gone downhill for a long time. At that time, almost half of Jiangshan's business was supported by Yin Shirshir. This acquisition almost caused Huanyu to suffer a great loss, and many popular celebrities left. After some time of consolidation, Huanyu Corporation was renamed Tianyu Entertainment. Only then did it pick up again. At that time, Yin Shirshir, who was in a semi-retired state, was also the deputy director of the entertainment industry. She had a better strategic plan than Ji Lin. She did not sign any of the internet celebrities and instead, she specifically picked veteran actors and actresses whose contracts had ended. When Yueyao was 10 years old, Tianyu ushered in a historical year. That year, almost all the popular young actors and actresses failed at the box office due to high pay and zero acting skills. On the contrary, a TV series that Yin Shirshir invested in was so popular that it surprised the outside world. She wasn't investing in some big IP or celebrity production. It was just a simple family drama. It was nothing more than a family affair between mother-in-law and daughter-in-law. However, because of the strong sense of immersion, her own ability in the drama was regarded as a masterpiece by the audience to wash their eyes. Actually, the story wasn't that fresh. It was just that after such a long period of time, after the awkward acting of those young actors and actresses, the word traffic suddenly lost its luster. Coupled with the rectification of some of the bad practices in the entertainment industry regarding high pay and loopholes in contracts, many stars with good acting skills finally made a comeback. This was not because Yin Shirshir had a better view of the big picture, but because she believed that a celebrity could be inexperienced in acting and not have the looks of a dragon or a phoenix among men. But if there was a problem with their attitude or if their integrity was questionable, they were destined to not be able to stay young. She didn't like people who were not serious about their work. The reputation of the artists under Tianyu suddenly rose. After that, Tianyu recruited a large group of elite editors. With good stories, a good team, good actors, and good resources, Tianyu almost occupied a heaven-defying market share. Bookmark for easier reading. Chapter 179. However, even with such heaven-defying resources, there were still some people who did not agree with each other. Because of the historical problems left over from the period of Huanyu and some vermin in the company, during the handover period, Mu Yueyao got rid of all these people in one fell swoop. This method won her the favor of everyone in the company. After all, there were some people that the previous dynasty couldn't touch. However, Mu Yueyao was different. As a new official, she had power and courage. Originally, Yin Shirshir didn't want Mu Yueyao to handle the Vanity Fair. The Mu family was rich. To put it bluntly, even if Mu Yueyao stayed at home, she could still sit on the wealth that she couldn't spend for centuries. Her 2 elder brothers were influential figures, and their parents had accumulated wealth that could rival a country. Yin Shirshir's idea was for Yueyao to be able to do what she liked. However, she didn't know what her daughter had experienced. Overnight, she became less lively and talkative than before. At the same time, she strongly requested to inherit Tianyu Entertainment. Although Yin Shirshir didn't agree, Mu Yaja let her have her way. Although Yin Shirshir didn't understand, she believed in one thing when it came to educating children. That was, it was good enough for one of the husband and wife to make the decision. Since Mu Yaja had already decided, she had no objection. However, not long after she took office, Yueyao did something earth-shattering in the industry. Everyone was shocked. That was she banned Jing Yang from the company. Half of Jing Yang's contracts were with Tianyu. Moreover, it was the most important part. Apart from commercial endorsements and variety shows, Tianyu had full authority in film and television. In other words, if Mu Yueyao wanted to ban Jing Yang, she could simply open her mouth and close it. However, Jing Yang was facing a variety show and had nowhere else to go. This was only known to the company's insiders. No one outside knew. Soon Jing Yang's studio caught wind of the news. Overnight, all the discussions were terminated. Although there was freedom in variety shows, because of Mu Yueyao's ban, everyone panicked and didn't know if they should continue to invite Jing Yang to work with them. Almost everyone was surprised. In everyone's eyes, Mu Yueyao's care and admiration for Jing Yang was unparalleled. What exactly had happened that made her so heartless as to ban Jing Yang? Jing Yang was not surprised when he found out. He knew that Yueyao would do this. She must hate him. Otherwise, she wouldn't be so cruel to take such a measure. Everyone in the studio panicked. Apart from Jing Yang, no one was calm. The manager knew about the relationship between Mu Yueyao and Jing Yang. He also knew that something must have happened between the two of them. Seeing Jing Yang's indifferent expression, he couldn't help but become anxious. Jing Yang, say something. Why are you acting like nothing happened? Why did they ban you all of a sudden? There must be some kind of misunderstanding. Misunderstanding? Jing Yang smiled helplessly. Since she hates me so much, let her hate me. I owe her this. His manager asked tentatively. Why don't you go and see her? What's going on? No matter what, you have to find out. No need, Jing Yang said and didn't want to say anything else. Watch first episode Zue new episode chapter 2 section please go to Hall of Visitors, mobile address. Chapter 180. The door suddenly opened. A middle-aged man in a suit walked in. Even though he looked a little old, he still looked extremely handsome. His demeanor hadn't changed. He still looked as elegant as ever. When he walked in, everyone was silent. No one dared to speak. Jing Yang still looked indifferent. When he saw the man, he looked up and said indifferently, Mr. Qin. Qin Yongke was the boss of Jing Yang's studio. He was in charge of all the affairs of Jing Yang's Asia-Pacific division. Qin Yongke glanced at him. Even though Jing Yang looked like nothing had happened, it was impossible not to see the dispirited look in his eyes. He pretended not to see it and sat down opposite him. Pretending as if nothing had happened, he asked, What's going on? Nothing. Nothing. Qin Yongke sneered. Nothing? Did she help you ban you? The whole industry is saying that you offended the princess of the imperial family. She wants you to be kicked out. Jing Yang remained silent. Qin Yongke looked around. The people around him immediately understood and left. When only he and Jing Yang were left in the room, Qin Yongke stood up and paced back and forth a few times. Finally, he said, Jing Yang, it seems like you haven't understood the seriousness of the matter. Now you're going to be banned. This is such a big matter. Instead of resolving it, you're sitting here with such a face. What are you doing? What's the meaning of this? Jing Yang was still expressionless. She's the one who wants to ban me. I didn't beg her to ban me. Am I supposed to suck up to her and beg her to let me off and be merciful? Qin Yongke did not speak. After a long while he smiled coldly. Others may not know the relationship between you and the Mu family's daughter, but I know it very well. You should know better than me what's going on, right? Jing Yang looked away. You're running away, Qin Yongke said mercilessly. Hurry up and go over. Whether you beg for mercy or be shameless, you have to resolve this matter as soon as possible. Otherwise, you can say that you're wasting all our energy and time. When Jing Yang heard that Qin Yongke wanted him to look for Yueyao, his face darkened. Why? Of course you have to deal with your own problems. Don't tell me you want us to clean up after you? Jing Yang smiled. If she wants to ban me, it's just a matter of words. I can't do anything about it. You have a way. I didn't. Even if you don't have a solution, think of one for me. Jing Yang remained silent. Qin Yongke couldn't bear to see him like this. He suddenly walked over, stretched out his hand, and grabbed his collar. Now think of a way. President Qin, don't force me. You think I want to? Qin Yongke said angrily, You know, when you set up your personal studio, I invested 20 million. And this is just the initial funds. Later on, I invested tens of millions, and this studio signed a contract worth hundreds of millions. Just because of your personal matter, all our hard work is going to go down the drain. Jingyang, don't be too self-righteous and selfish. Chunyonka roared, and Jingyang was like a mute, unable to speak. I don't care how difficult it is for you. You must settle this matter for me. Do you understand? Chunyonka let go of him and continued, You're not enemies. Why do you have to do this? Chapter 181. Jingyang just stared at the cup on the coffee table and did not say a word. Chunyonka knew that he was being very aggressive, but he knew what he was doing. Jingyang was his artist, and he knew his character very well. They had worked together for so many years and Jingyang had made a lot of money for him. He would not make things difficult for him over such a small amount of money. He just couldn't stand it. They were not enemies. Especially after he came back from Hong Kong, he was always holding a ring in a daze. On the surface he looked calm, but Chunyonka knew that he must have been hurt badly. Jingyang, are you suffering from self-abuse? Chunyonka squatted down and looked at him seriously. But inadvertently, he noticed that the corners of his eyes were bloodshot. When he saw it, his heart ached and he was angry that he did not fight back. But he did not say anything. He felt that he had made it clear enough. You can either talk to her or just quit the entertainment industry. Don't waste everyone's time. Jingyang said gloomily, Don't worry, I will take care of it. Chunyonka was stunned and suddenly snorted. This is your business. You have to be responsible for yourself. Put everything else aside. At the Moon Palace, Jingyang held the business card. On it was the contact number of Tianyu Entertainment's public relations director, Han Guoyu. He also found out that Mu Yueyao was entertaining at the Moon Palace through him. He did not know why he was in a daze. In his heart, Mu Yueyao had always been a princess-like existence. She lived a good life and the word entertaining should be very distant to her. When he found out that she had taken over Tianyu Entertainment, he was a little surprised. But on second thought, as the CEO of Tianyu Entertainment, it was inevitable that she would have to entertain people. Jingyang walked into the club and stated his purpose of visit. The manager looked very cold. President Mu is busy. It is not convenient for him to introduce you. Jingyang turned around and wanted to leave, but he suddenly recalled Chunyonka's words. He braced himself and turned around again. I have something important to discuss with her and I need to see her now. She won't see you. Jingyang did not think much of it. You haven't told her. How do you know that she doesn't want to see me? The manager was speechless. He pinched his earpiece and walked to the side to report. Not long after, he walked over and looked Jingyang up and down. He said coldly, Come with me. Jingyang followed the manager to the door of the private room. As soon as he pushed the door open, the originally quiet corridor reverberated with the music from the private room. The manager first went in to ask for instructions, and then Jingyang went in. Just as he walked in, he saw Mu Yueyao surrounded by several handsome men. On a small stage, a popular idol group was holding a microphone and singing a pop song. Jingyang's sudden intrusion surprised everyone. The news of Jingyang being blacklisted hadn't spread that far and wide. Other than the senior management, the artists under him hadn't heard much about it. Jingyang was a popular idol. Compared to him, the idols in the room were considered juniors. Wow. It's Jingyang. This is the first time I've seen him in person. God, so handsome. A few young men who had obviously just debuted looked at Jingyang and whispered to each other. The most embarrassing thing was that one of the young men's eyes looked like knives that were aimed at Jingyang. Chapter 182. Jingyang was a little annoyed. He was not annoyed because the boy had the same eyes as him, but because his hand was wrapped around Mu Yueyao's shoulder. Mu Yueyao was holding a wine glass full of red wine. When she saw Jingyang walk in, she instinctively wanted to put it down, because he did not like her drinking. However, halfway through, she suddenly thought of something. Her face turned ashen, and she slammed the wine glass on the table. The wine glass cracked slightly and some of the red wine spilled out. The boy beside her was shocked. When he saw that her hand was covered in red wine, he immediately took out his handkerchief and carefully wiped her hand. My Xiaobao, why are you so careless? If the glass breaks and you hurt your hand, my heart will ache. This was undoubtedly a provocation in Jing Yang's eyes. Let go of her. He instinctively shouted. The sudden order startled everyone. The boy turned his head and looked at Jing Yang, not knowing what to do. Jing Yang did not have much patience. He walked over and grabbed Yue Yao's hand, slapping the boy's hand away at the same time. Because of Jing Yang's status, the boy did not dare to say anything. Mu Yueyao struggled to break free. It was obvious that she was repulsed. What are you doing here? She asked indifferently. She glanced at him from the corner of her eye and then looked away. Yueyao, don't mess around. Mu Yueyao sneered. Jing Yang, according to the rules, please call me President Mu. President Mu? Realizing that her tone was so distant, Jing Yang was stunned for a moment. Then he said, don't mess around. You haven't answered me. Mu Yueyao's tone was as cold as ever. What are you doing here? There are many people here. Can we talk in private? Everyone here is my people. There's no need to avoid. After a pause, Mu Yueyao asked without hesitation. You're just here to verify whether the decision to ban you came from me. Jing Yang remained silent. Mu Yueyao took a deep breath. So it was really because of this. Although she had expected it, she still felt very disappointed. If it were not for this, he would never have taken the initiative to appear in front of her. Mu Yueyao said calmly, I was the one who made the decision to ban you. You don't have to be surprised about this, and you have no right to object. Please think about this carefully, Jing Yang said. I know that you have a lot of dissatisfaction with me, but there is no need to vent your anger on others. I don't care if you want to ban me, but the studio under my name is affected. I can't sit back and do nothing. So, Mu Yueyao shrugged. Even if you're dissatisfied, it doesn't affect my decision. What do you want? Jing Yang was a little angry. You don't have to target me from this angle. Jing Yang, don't be so arrogant. Look at all the people in this room. Her looks weren't bad, and she was good at singing and dancing. Her acting skills weren't bad either. If she was nurtured properly, it was only a matter of time before she became a superstar of the new generation. Why can't I give them a chance? Mu Yueyao continued. More importantly, they are all loyal to me. They won't make me unhappy or angry. Why should I support you and look at your face? Am I asking for trouble? Every word was like a gem. Jing Yang looked at her silently. He didn't know why, but his heart palpitated. Watch first episode Zue New Chapter section. Please go to Hall of Visitors, mobile address